kick off with apologies, please. Agenda item 1.
Yeah, apologies have been received from Councillor Hugh Irving and also from for business item number 6 from NRW representatives, Dŵr Cymru and Waterco. They've got other commitments, unfortunately.
Thank you, Rhian. And number 2, we'll go on to declaration of interest, and Gary's going to run through that, please.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Members will be aware of the requirements under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now, or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal or personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available online.
Thank you, Gary. Any declarations of interest, please? No. I have taken some advice of Gary on agenda item number 5. Personal interest that I am a landowner and I'm a signatory on the call-in. Gary didn't think it was justified to sign the paper. Gary? This isn't an item in respect of any particular piece of land or any particular land that you may be associated with. It's more of a general policy, and as such, it requires a declaration of interest. Thank you, Gary. Any other any interests? Declarations of interest? Anybody? No. Everybody's quiet. Sorry, Mirik. Mirik.
Diolch yn fawr. Ia, i wneud efo'r adroddiad gwych ar afonydd a ffosydd dwi wedi bod yn trio cynorthwyo ffarm sydd yn yn ardal yn Wigfair i drio cael rhywbeth wedi wneud ynglyn â llifogydd. Dwi'n gwybod di hynny'n cyfri yng ngwaith i fel cynghorydd sir i'r ardal fy hun ydi o, un ward yn hun.
Na, dwi'n meddwl fysa hynny'n buddiant o dan y cod. Os da chi'n gweithio fel cynghorydd i helpu rhywun yn eich ward, mae hynny'n iawn. Fysa ond yn buddiant os fysa gennych chi rhyw fath o ddiddordeb yn y fferm neu'r tir.
Diolch yn fawr, Gary. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Ew. Diolch, Gary. Number 3, urgent matters agreed by the chair. There are none. So going on to agenda item 4, meeting of the previous meeting. We'll just go through. That was held on January the 20th. So we'll go from page 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Any matters arising from the minutes, please? Rhian?
Sorry, no, there's no matters arising that aren't either covered in Appendix 4 to the work programme report or in the information brief circulated out on Monday.
Okay. Would anybody else like to raise any comments? All quiet. Can I have a proposer and a seconder that they are correct? I think Peter Scott and Brian Blakely, I think, put up first. So can we just have a show of hands? Anybody against? Nobody against. That's carried. Thank you. So I will move on to agenda item number 5. And because I'm one of the secretaries for the call-in, I'm going to hand over to the Vice Chair, Graham Timms, for this next agenda item. And after this agenda item, we will be stopping for a break. So, Graham, can I swap places with you? Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr. So the item on the agenda is a call-in that has been received, and call-ins have to be considered within 5 working days of the decision being called in. However, there was no urgency to implement the decision. The decision maker agreed that the call-in would be held at the next available scrutiny committee. That's today. So that's why we're considering it at the moment. It was a decision made at the last cabinet and called in. Councillor Mervyn Parry is going to start us off in a second. But first of all, I'm going to ask Rhian Evans if she'd like to just introduce the paper that we've got, which explains the procedure. Diolch.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, you'll see the paper in front of you, which just explains the procedure we'll be going through today, and seeking you to consider the call-in by Councillor Mervyn Parry and the signatories, and then based on that information and the discussion that takes place, whether or not you think it merits going back to scrutiny, to Cabinet. Now, the Cabinet report is attached to Annex B to your report, and that's got a few appendices in it. You've got all the paper there that went to Cabinet on the 15th of February. So the procedure we'll follow today is that Councillor Mervyn Parry will introduce the reason for the call-in, and then then all the signatories to the call-in which should be present today. I know Councillor Melvin Mile, sorry, I should have tendered his apologies, he can't be present, but we've got a statement from Councillor Mile. So they'll be asked then just to contribute to why they've agreed to the call-in as well. And then the lead members and officers will then be asked to answer the points or question raised during the introduction. Then there'll be an opportunity for you as committee members then to ask questions, and at the chair's discretion, any non-committee members who are present can ask questions. So following the discussion, each side will be asked to summarise their case, and the chair will then summarise the relevant points made. And then you'll be asked to determine whether there are grounds to refer the decision back to Cabinet, seeking it to review it at its next available meeting. But if you are referring back to Cabinet, you will need to put the grounds clearly why you're asking them to review that decision. Okay.
Okay, Diolch. So we're going to go to Mervyn. People have had the papers and had an explanation of what has been called in and what's been discussed previously. I'm sure that a lot of us will have already watched the Cabinet feed as well on the internet. So over to Councillor Mervyn Parry. Diolch.
Thank you, Graham. I'll just read out what the report is about. A review under the Council scrutiny call-in procedure for the decision taken by Cabinet on the 15th of February 2022 on a proposed scheme of delegated decision making the land acquisition, freehold and leasehold for carbon sequestration and ecological improvement purposes. A notice of a call-in was submitted by the 6 councillors, as you've said, which is we're having the discussion today. Is that enough, Rhian, for leading the paper and for me just to put my points forward?
Or you just need to explain the basis of your call-in.
Is that in the number 2? A notice of the call-in was submitted by 6 cabinet six non-cabinet councillors in accordance with the council's constitution. The notice attached in Annex A calls for a review by one of the council scrutiny committees into a decision taken by Cabinet on the 15th of February in relation to a proposed scheme of delegated decision making for land acquisition, environmental and ecological purposes. Is that enough?
And just Annex A as well, the reason for the call-in stated in Annex A, you may want to expand on that.
Can I just help a little bit more, because
go on.
I don't think we want to go into the details of it. We just want it reading out so that everyone's clear about what it is, if that's okay.
the Annex A, the report, a proposed scheme of delegated decision making for land acquisition, freehold and leasehold for carbon sequential and ecological improvements. I'm not sure what you're asking me to read really here.
I'm asking you to read the grounds stated on the call-in, and it begins with "my concerns are," and just that paragraph.
It's the bottom of page 17.
Yeah, bottom of page 17.
Okay, let me go to that one. My concerns are that the council is in a position to land grab at any auction potential, outbidding any local farmers or landowner needs. I understand that they are not after prime agricultural land. However, the decision needs to be discussed with local members and local mags pre-bidding on land without knowing local knowledge and need. We request that, according to the council approved call-in procedure rules, note 5, a meeting of the most appropriate overview and scrutiny committee to be held in 5 working days, which is why we're here today, and the members who signed it.
Okay, thanks for that. So we've got the grounds for the call-in, and what we have to do is to listen to the members that have put the case for the call-in, and then listen to the response from cabinet members and officers to see if those grounds can be discussed in more detail, and then we need to excuse me, we need to come to a decision then as whether we want cabinet to reconsider the issue at their next meeting or their next available meeting. And we also have to, as Rhian said, we have to establish what grounds there are. So just going to the actual debate at the cabinet, Councillor Brian Jones is with us this morning. Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill is also with us. I see Councillor Alan Smith is here as well. He contributed to the debate. Sorry, not Councillor. You get it. Maybe in the future, but Alan Smith is here, one of our officers who contributed to the discussion as well. So I don't know if, can I ask Brian if he just summarised what went through the cabinet? It's in the papers anyway, we know.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's clear for the webcast as well.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear from here in sunny Rill. Does it sound okay? Yeah? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, Brian.
Good. Yeah, so the report that went to Cabinet on the 15th of February, which you've said is in the pack here today, it was titled up as the proposed scheme of delegated decision for land acquisition, freehold and leasehold, for carbon sequestration and ecological improvement purposes. So that was what the paper was all about, if you like. And I suppose that the headline from the report is that consultation was taken out at point 8 there on the report, and the 8.2 where we consulted with Countryside Services, the AOMB, and we also consulted with College Cambria and various other people out there, Jones Peckover's, the Farmers Union. The response to that wasn't overwhelming, and we did acknowledge that the cabinet meeting that we would have to engage going forward, but nevertheless, for the purposes of the cabinet report on the 15th of February, we did do that consultation. We did also make the point at the cabinet meeting that we weren't looking to purchase grade 1 agricultural land in any shape or form, and that's borne out by the actual title of the paper, which Councillor Mervyn Parry referred to, and I just referred to it as well. So we weren't looking at grade 1 agricultural land. We acknowledged that we needed to consult, and although it's not in that report, there is a limit. It was not going to be an open checkbook for Denbighshire to go out buying land, and there is a limit on what we can bid on land, and that's out there today. It's already known, So we wouldn't have been coming out and outbidding anybody, because there's a limit to what we could bid on any piece of land, and that's in legislation, and it's in the paperwork, as they say. So that's a little brief overview of where we are. Interested to see how this calling goes, and hopefully we'll find a solution that satisfies all parties concerned. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. I don't know if Julian wants to add anything briefly to that.
Yes, if I can, Chair, very briefly, just to pick up on a couple of points. As I say, this obviously is a paper about a comparatively small change to the scheme of delegation in order to allow the council to act quicker than we are able to under the current scheme of delegation. You'll see from the papers, we have actually lost out potentially on a purchase because of the length of the existing process. Just to reaffirm what Brian said, and I think we mentioned it in the cabinet debate itself, that as a matter of practice, we generally would automatically consult with local members. But there are obviously, potentially circumstances where we might find out on a Monday that a tract of land which would otherwise be acceptable to us is going up for auction on Thursday, and that would obviously mean that we would need to take appropriate action at pace, so to speak. So I mean, as I say, we're quite happy that we would consult. It might need to be at very short notice by email, but that we could actually do. And as Brian said, we can't go into a bidding war. The district valuer will set a maximum value that we can that we could go up to. We're using public funds. We haven't got a limitless checkbook. But I suppose what also needs to be borne in mind is, we're doing it from the best interest of Denbighshire, but we do know that out there there are commercial entities who are buying up huge tracts of land for this purpose, for carbon sequestration, to offset what they're doing elsewhere in their organisations. And the final point, I suppose, which Brian's also said, is that carbon buying land for purposes of carbon sequestration is something that we will have to do if we are serious about achieving our carbon zero target, because it's one plank in the armory, so to speak. If I think I'm mixing a metaphor, and it's something that we won't be able to achieve that target without doing to some extent. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Julian. Alan, anything briefly you want to add?
Thank you, Chair. Just to sort of restate those things, really. I mean, we're trying to follow what was the resolve of the council to drive us when they declare the climate emergency, and carbon sequestration and planting will need to be some part of that solution. So this is really just a pragmatic effort to make some of that possible. As Julian says, it's been difficult on occasions. And really, if we don't have the ability to respond to relatively rapidly, then we are at a disadvantage. And as a council, and as Julian says, there are other buyers in the mix who will certainly outbid us, because certainly be more fleet of foot than us. And I don't mean local landowners. I mean people from perhaps not from Wales. So I think to handicap us as a council who are trying to work in your interests would be a mistake. I think I understand members' concerns about decisions being taken away them, though, and if you study the paperwork, both the report and the wellbeing impact assessment stress really strongly the engagement with local members, town councils, local members, MAGs, and potentially even community councils in trying to understand where land is suitable for sequestration and where it's not. And there'll be many cases where it isn't, either because it's too good quality or it's got a better use somewhere else. So we're very, very strongly reliant on local advice and engagement before we make any decision about what might or might not be suitable. And that's a very strong thread in the paper. So I think to a certain extent, members' concerns are probably unfounded. We may come to it later, but Hugh Rees is here. We've been looking at a list of parcels of land that we are interested or negotiated to buy. Nearly all of them have come from the recommendations of local members. People are actually coming to us and say, you should think about this piece of land, this might be suitable, and we are acting on those recommendations. So actually our intelligence is coming very much from the local community, and that they are guiding us in our possible decisions. So I think the reality is the opposite of what members are worried about. The reality is that we're very much dependent on local knowledge, local expertise and guidance about what's proper. And I think probably there's 5 sites we're currently looking at. They've all but one have come from the recommendations of local members. So I think those fears are unfounded. I understand them, but I think they're unfounded. And negotiation and collaboration with local communities is an absolutely core part of this. And just to re-emphasize, I think a lot of the fear is, if there is fear, is apart from a principal objection, is that we would be wanting to buy prime agricultural land. Well, we absolutely don't. There's absolutely would be no point in that. That is for the production of food. But there are areas which could be usefully used for sequestration. And how we would use it, again, will differ from how an external company would. I'm sure you've all read stories about companies from London buying up farms in Powys and planting Sitka spruce plantations. Well, nobody wants to see that in Denbighshire.
Alan,
sorry, okay. Sorry.
I'll cut across you a bit there, Alan, if you don't mind. I think these arguments will come up.
I'm getting carried away. Beg your pardon, Chair.
I think that too enthusiastic. Yeah, there's no harm in enthusiasm, but I think these arguments will come up as the call-in proceeds. So I think we'll leave it till then. Thanks for your information there anyway. So we're going to hand over to Mervyn now, who's going to begin to put the case. I'm going to give an opportunity to all of those on the call-in. That's in the list anyway, that we should do that. And then as we're going through that, we'll ask for comments as well. But I'm not going to ask for a comment after each individual person. We're going to try to get through it at least by midday or so.
Chair, can I just ask one quick question before we move on? Can I ask Alan where the 5 sites are?
Brian, can I just say, you can ask a question if it's a procedural one, but not if it's part of the debate.
I only wanted to know where the 5 sites were.
No, that's not appropriate at the minute. We can come back to that another time. So we've got the case for the cabinet there, their information that they put forward of how the decision was taken and so on. So now we're going to go to Mervyn Parry to give us some further information and his opinions. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to put my camera off just in case we have difficulty hearing me. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Alan, for preempting everything I was going to ask you on there. The reason I've called this in today is for a few concerns, and I've put them down as a list, and maybe I can go through them like this, and maybe they can be answered that way. I feel that this decision is bypassing the democratic process by skipping the asset management meetings to discuss the purchase of any justification of a process. I believe it's been to Stiggs, but I would have thought that possibly the democratic way of making decision is through asset management. Question 1. 2, I understand the need for making quicker decisions to purchase the land. However, I feel that we or Denbighshire County Council possibly could speed up their process of making such a decision to purchase this land. Maybe we're a bit sort of lumpy in the way the decisions are made. Somebody said earlier, I think it might have been Julian, that a piece of land comes for sale on advertised on a Monday and sold on a Thursday. That's not how land is sold. If it goes through any of the agents, Jones, Peckover, Clough and Co, they have to have an obligation to their customers to give adequate notice of advertising for a piece of land going for sale. I mean, I understand that possibly a private piece of land could be offered, and that could still be a decision. And where Alan mentioned with involvement with local members and community councils and MAGs, in the paper it says that we would be informed, not consulted. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I think that the local members should have a lot more involvement and the local MAG should have a lot more involvement. And if you email me in the day, I'm usually back to you. MAGs are very good. We can get quick decisions made. Discussed it with Rhys Thomas. You know, we're not lumpy in the way we do things. We have to respond very quickly. 3, what role has the local member of MAGs got? I've done that one just in being identified of what's happening. Are we as a council concerned that we can't meet our climate and ecological challenges? And is that why we are doing this? I do understand the argument, but what we don't want to be doing is doing like your Ryanairs of the world and some of these other big companies who might just be thinking, well, we'll carry on doing what we're doing, but we'll just buy some land and plant more trees. So I'm concerned about that one, that we're actually trying to skip our own responsibilities of what we're doing with our climate and ecological changes within Denbighshire. Possibility also, if the local agents know that Denbighshire have got a pot of land, pot of money to spend, that the value of such land, and let me just point out, I agree that we probably would not be looking for grade 1, 2 or 3 land for this process, but for a lot of the hill land farmers, grade 1 and 2 and 3 is an option for them, where they will farm and improve what they've got about them. So it's not the type of quality of land I'm concerned about. It's competing against the possible mid to hill land farmers against the kind of land that they might want. And if the agent knows that we have got a pot of money, say £1 million, that it might start the rising, it might start the initial cost of that land might be inflated, knowing that the council might have a pot of money to bid on it. And again, you know, coming back onto the potential of outbidding the farmers, you know, I think the agents give plenty of notices of sale. And the last one I'm concerned with is in the consultation, the responses back from the unions, farming unions and the young farmers clubs. I know you say you consulted with them. Have we got any evidence of any replies to that? I just feel that we should have given them more time and information to respond to that. So I'll leave it there for now, Chair.
Thanks, Mervyn. So quite a few points there. I'm going to move through the members in the order that they appear on the form. And it's David Williams next. Now, I'd appreciate it if you could not repeat too much what Councillor Mervyn Parry said. But is David Williams with us? No. No, okay. So Mervyn Mile is sadly not able to be with us today. He has written to us, and his statement is as follows. So from Melvin Mile, he says, I appreciate the council's need for speedier action in land procurement, but my worry is that local members will not be given sufficient consultation time in the matter. It would be unlikely that high quality farmland will be bought by DCC just to plant trees, so I have little worry about farmers losing out in that respect. However, producing food will be just as important as reducing the offset carbon, so farmers need a fair crack at the land too. Local members know their and know their localities and their ward residents. The members need to be kept informed and of any potential acquisitions in their area, so that they may be involved in any pre-bidding discussions at the earliest stages. So that really is supporting the one about the points that Mervyn have made about consultation with members. That's Melvyn Miles' contribution. Over to the esteemed chair of our committee. Over to you, Hugh.
Thank you, acting chair. Yes, I believe the cabinets have been misled. The amount of grade 1 land in Denbighshire probably doesn't exceed over 100 acres. I just want to know if people realise that. For an example, the bypass from St Asaph to Rydland, that's not what you'd think. It's grade 1 land. It's not grade 1 land. The grade 1 land is in God's own country, and it's in Llanbedr Clwyd, and there's a piece in Llanfair. So that's one of my concerns. Myself being a landowner, I've just designated an acre of land to plant trees along with a planning application, which I feel is my duty. I think we have got, I'm not against any environmental schemes. I'm supportive of any schemes in the right place. But I just think, not wanting to repeat what Mervyn's saying, I think this has gone too far. We need to speed the process up within Denbighshire. Land, it comes on the market. It's not sold overnight like houses are sold. So we need to change the process within Denbighshire. We're also concerned now, you know, we look at what's happening over in Ukraine and in Russia. They produce 30% of the world's grain. I'm all for climate change and saving climate change. We need to think about food security as well. Thank you, Chair.
And I've added an extra one on the end there, number 7. To Councillor Rhys-Thomas.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr. Cadeirydd. There is translation, is there?
Yes, there is.
Yes. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Mae gen I 4 peth lawr sydd yn ymhoeni am y polisi yma. Y cyntaf, fel ddwedodd y cynghorydd Mervyn Parry, mae o I ryw bwynt yn cyfaddau bod polisïau lleihau'r carbon dioxide yn cael ei gynhyrchu ddim yn mynd I weithio'n dda iawn. Felly mae hwnna'n bryder I mi.
Sorry, Rhys, can I just interrupt? We just missed that last section.
Okay, I've got my camera off. Felly dwi'n poeni bod hyn yn dechrau edrych fel bod yn polisïau I lleihau ar carbon dioxide ddim yn mynd I lwyddo. Dwi'n poeni am hynny. Yr ail beth sydd wedi cael ei ddweud, dwi hefyd yn gweld hyn yn arwain at codi prisiau tir o safon isel, yr grade 4 a grade 5, fel mae cynghorydd Hugh wedi sôn. Dwi yn meddwl os ydy'r cyngor sir yn troi fyny fel rhyw new kid on the block gyda I fyny at filiwn o bunnoedd I wario yna bod prisiau tir yn mynd I godi ac bod hyn yn mynd I fynd allan o gyrraedd unrhyw amaethwyr lleol sydd falle eisiau'r tir hynny am ryw reswm. Dwi'n poeni hefyd bod aelodau lleol ac aelodau'r MAG yn cael ei gadael allan fel y dywedwyd, dyn ni ar ddiwedd y ffôn, dyn ni ar yn e-byst, felly dwi yn meddwl bod angen I fynd nôl at gyfathrebu gyda nhw. Consultation means consultation before taking action. I'm afraid I see more and more things on this council where consultation ends up as telling us what has already been decided. Felly baswn ni yn hoffi bod hwnna yn dod yn ôl i'r polisi yma, bod angen cysylltu ar y ffôn neu trwy e-bost gyda aelodau lleol. un pwynt gwahanol a newydd sydd gen i, un o'r risgiau i'r polisïau amgylcheddol a charbon dioxide y sir ydy dim digon o staff yn y gwasanaeth cefn gwlad. Ac mae tipyn o'r hyn da ni'n trafod fan hyn, pa dir i'w brynu, pa dir sydd yn addas ar gyfer plannu coed, pa dir sydd yn dir gwael ond yn dda ar gyfer bywyd gwyllt. Mae o'i gyd yn dod i lawr at y gwasanaeth cefn gwlad. Ac mae hwn wedi cael ei gydnabod fel risg i'r cyngor, ac felly sut gallwch chi fynd ymlaen gyda hyn pan mae'r gwasanaeth cefn gwlad a gormod o waith i wneud yn barod. Dwi'n gweld hynna'n risg i hyn bod na swyddogion sydd ddim yn deall natur y tir yma yn mynd ymlaen ac yn cymryd penderfyniadau heb bod y gwasanaeth cefn gwlad wedi cael cyfle go iawn i asesu'r tir. Dyna ni, diolch yn fawr, Mr. Cadeirydd.
Diolch, Rhys. I'm just going to, I don't think Peter Evans is here, am I correct? No, are you there, Peter? No. Okay, so that's covered all of the people who've signed the call-in. I'm now going to ask for a response to those points, but if we can, maybe we could start with Brian Jones, just to remind committee members who are on the sidelines here at the minute. We're being asked to establish whether we think there's a reasonable grounds for calling. We're not being established, we're not trying to take sides on it, we're just trying to establish if there's a reasonable ground for this to go back to Cabinet for considering again. So you'll have to wait a bit more patiently for your turn, but to Brian to start off a few replies. Deal.
Thank you, Standing Chair. I'll read them out in no particular order, as they say. In respect of the comments about countryside services, I do believe, and I'll stand corrected, they are all in favour of this. You know, they're at ground level, if you like, pardon the pun, and they're all in favour of a mechanism that could speed things up. The capacity issue in that department, as it's again has already been stated, has been recognised, and it will be for the new council under the climate change banner to look at that, consider it, and address it if that's deemed the right way to go. The comments about the price of land increasing, that's already been touched on earlier on. Councillor Julian Thompson-Hill, the land valuer puts the cost on the land, and land is only worth whatever, you know, ultimately what the highest bidder is prepared to go to. I sort of accept the point that it could inflate the cost of land, but again, you've got the existing mechanism that Denbighshire run to at the moment, and this report was looking to speed up that mechanism. I do take the point that Denbighshire could look in-house to speed up what they've already got as a mechanism. Those are my responses from what I've picked up from the members that have spoken.
Okay, Julian, you've got your hand up as well, so we'll come to you.
Yeah, I have, just in addition to what Brian said, to try and pick up on a couple of points. It's actually noticeable that most people that have actually spoken about a need to do something with the process, and that's exactly what this paper was designed to try and actually do, just to speed up our decision-making processes. In terms of some of the points raised about asset management group and strategic investment group, generally they would set the strategic direction in terms of, is this the right thing to do as a principle, but they wouldn't necessarily on a variety of other schemes that we go in terms of the block allocations and otherwise look at each individual proposal. There was a question, I think it was Mervyn, I can't remember, it might have been one of the, your other colleagues, that said about, does this mean then that the other processes aren't working? And I think what we need to realise here is no one area of work is going to make us achieve carbon zero. It's a whole range of different types of scheme. We are working to improve our fleet situation over time. We'll be looking at our buildings, but we're always going to have buildings, and buildings have embodied carbon in them. So it was very much the third plank to the proposals when it went through the democratic process, that we would need to buy additional land for sequestration purposes, because without that, we will not achieve carbon zero. I accept the fact that there is a potential that because we're another player in the market, so to speak, that it might inflate land prices, but we will not be the only new player in the market. There will be other commercial players in the market, and if prices are driven up, then we'll be the first ones to be driven out of the pricing structure for land purchase, for the reasons that we've given, that we use public money. We can't spend over the odds on it, so we can't get into a bidding war with whatever company it may be that decides they need the land. Oh, yeah, just to pick up, I know Hugh's here and may well want to add himself, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. But in terms of the questions on countryside services, I think they've said that they would be able to cope with what we're currently envisaging, but as time moves forward, and if this is successful as a programme of works, then they would need extra capacity, and that would have to be accommodated as a budget pressure within the budget process in future years. And I don't think Steve's with us today, might be, but I know that he's well aware that is one particular outcome that might actually exist. Oh yeah, I see he is here now. Apologies, Steve, if I'm trying to put words in your mouth. So I think those are the ones I wanted to pick up on. I don't know whether any officers wanted to pick up on some of the points that Brian or myself have missed out.
Yeah, if I could jump back in there, Chair. One point I didn't touch back on was from Mervyn Parry about in the Cabinet report at 8.5 on engagement work consultation. That question was asked at a Cabinet brief before the paper went to Cabinet, and the response, and Alan Smith will probably chip in as well. It says in the report that it was positive conversations, but if I could just say again, I was told by officers that it wasn't a fantastic response, and I think the comment was, well, you ask people to engage on a consultation, if they don't respond, do you take that they haven't got any strong points of view? And that was the sort of conversation we had at Cabinet brief before the paper went to Cabinet. So Alan Smith might want to chip in on that. So there is no, I think Councillor Parry asked for evidence, unless Alan Smith comments otherwise. I don't think there isn't a vast raft of written evidence. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so we'll follow that through now with Alan, and then I'm going to go to Hugh Rees for a comment on the staffing situation, and then I'm going to go to Steve Gadd. So Alan, first of all.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Brian's right. We didn't have as much response to our consultation as we had hoped, and we were in the process of trying to chase people up individually around that. But what we did have was positive. And one of the features of the consultation, of the responses we did have, was that they welcomed the council's responsibility. They welcomed the council's participation in land management because of our public sector ethos, and because people thought we would be responsible stewards. So there is some positivity in that, and other than that, there clearly is. We didn't get as much response. We took that as I'm not quite sure what that means. Clearly, people weren't objecting that much, but it doesn't mean to say we didn't need to do more work with them. And I think that's why the report itself and the discussion at Cabinet focused on continuing our engagement with local communities. And indeed, that's what the report stresses in general anyway, is the need to work with local communities about what works well for them and what's sensible decisions to make. So there is more to do, but the consultation, the engagement we did have was actually positive. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Can we go to Hugh then for a comment? Hugh Rees.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I appreciate councillors' concerns about Countryside's capacity with this emerging agenda, and we have had many conversations in the climate change and ecological emergency boards around capacity and what we will be able to cope with. At the current time, almost 3 years in, you know, we haven't seen anything that will concern us in terms of what we are going to need to do with council land that's going to be converted into areas for tree planting, and then with this new acquisition, land in St Asaph so far that it's going through as a new acquisition.
Interrupt you, please, Hugh. Sorry, we lost you then. We lost a few sentences. I don't know if you could switch your camera off, if that's okay.
Okay, hang on a minute, please. Okay, can people hear me now?
That's fine. Yes, thanks.
Okay, apologies. Don't know how where I got to there with that, but yeah, we've basically capacity at the present is fine. Going forward, you know, 2 or 3 years hence, if the volume of acquisition or land from the authority comes into the Countryside portfolio, we're going to need to look at it. And Councillor Jones and Thompson Hill are correct in saying it's under review. It's a dynamic process, and so we'll be looking at it as we go forward. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. We're going to go to the person who knows about the money now, Steve Gadd. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, just to build on what Julian and Alan and Hugh have said, really, to stress that, you know, there are 2 processes. So we've agreed as part of the 3 to 5 year budget process that there are annual service pressures that are considered. So obviously services can build in pressures through that process. But with this programme in particular, we know that we will need additional resources every single year for the 9 years of the programme. Some of that will be capital. So the revenue impact of capital, but we recognise that some of that will need to be staff resources. And we've seen that already. So there's, you know, new staff approved as part of the budget approved for 22-23 to help implement the building improvements and the energy efficiency in buildings. So we know that at some point we'll hit a tipping point and you will be coming up and saying, no, we need some more resources here, and that will be considered as part of the budget process. But there is a process to do that. Obviously it's a decision for the council at that point, but I'm certainly expecting sometime over the next couple of years, if, you know, this policy is successful, that Countryside Services will be requesting some funding.
Okay, thanks. Perhaps we can go back to Councillor Mervyn Parry now to see if he's got any points he wants to make, or if he's been satisfied. Oh, just a second.
Another answer on food security or grade 1 land.
Yeah, okay, but come to those in a second. Yeah, food security and grade 1 land, they're 2 points. We'll go to Mervyn first and then we'll go back to that.
Chair, I'm quite happy to listen to the rest of the debate and then come back after, if that's a possibility.
Okay, so Hugh just wants to have a response on grade 1 land, the fact there's very little in the county, and the food security. Yeah, who can take that? Do you want to just restate your point, Hugh, so that we can be certain of the point you want to answer?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. After the conversation with Brian Jones, he said what no grade 1 land would be purchased. I was disappointed what he didn't know, and I'm sure others didn't know how little grade 1 land there was in the county. and also with what's going on in Ukraine and Russia at the moment. You know, we've got to look at concerns over our food security for the future as well. I'm all for planting trees, just by the way.
Okay, who can take that?
I can try and respond, Chair. I obviously wasn't a party to that whole debate, but my understanding of our proposal is not just that we wouldn't be buying grade 1 land, but we're actually the sort of land we're talking about is probably marginal land, so very far from grade 1. I guess I'm sure there was no intention to mislead in any of that, but I think the point is we're absolutely not seeking to plant trees on land which is prime or even good arable land or farming land. We're not, and the extent of my understanding is probably stretched there now, Hugh, which I'm sure you can appreciate. The issue about food security, I understand that's part of national policy as well, in terms of clearly the UK as a whole probably needs to think more about food security. But again, I'm not sure that anything we're proposing is compromising that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Hugh Rees, comment on that.
Officer, we're looking at any particular parcel of land with potential for acquisition. Officers look at a matrix that's been devised, and the scoring is weighted towards the tree planting sort of end of the spectrum. And in response to Councillor Williams's comment about grade 1, the matrix actually counts against grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3A agricultural classifications. So that's the land that wouldn't be going forward in the matrix in the decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Dave 0981. We're not quite sure who you are. Is that David Williams?
It'll be Dave Lorry, Chair.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, it's Dave Lorry. I've just realised that my my surname doesn't come up on my little tag. Apologies.
Either, so we were just wondering who we were inviting in.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it was really. I was going to make the point that Hugh has already made, that there is a matrix in place that would in effect deter the purchase of quality agricultural land. I think in terms of my current role as the corporate landlord, I've come in over the last couple of months, and whilst I wasn't involved in the drafting of this paper, I think having read it, my take is that certainly the spirit of the proposals isn't to go out and purchase land willy-nilly. I think the inclusion of the matrix is there to ensure that there is consideration of what land we are buying, that we're buying the right land. I would suspect that the majority of the sites that come forward would possibly come from Countryside Services and Hugh. I think in terms of being able to react, and the paper does state this, there is already a scheme of delegation in place in the council's constitution that allows the purchase of land up to £1 million via delegation to Section 151 monitoring officer, lead officer. I think what this proposal does is it expands that consideration. It includes 2 further members who have responsibilities for ecology and climate change. I think both Mervyn and Hugh have made some reasonable points around land generally doesn't sell overnight. I think there are instances where we are either offered land or land comes up for auction where we may need to act reasonably quickly. I think in all cases where it's possible to go through the asset management process, we will. the asset management process on acquisitions and disposals always includes local member consultation. And certainly if it goes to full asset management group, then the papers are available for all members. I don't see that happening, and I think as the task of purchasing the land would fall to property, I think we would always generally speak to the local member and, where possible, the MAGs. I don't see an issue in circulating information to the MAGs for consultation. I think that in the main, what this does in terms of sort of expediting the process of purchasing land, to my view, it negates the need to continually go back to SIG with business cases justifying the purchase of the land, because I think what it would do is, in essence, treat the allocation that we have a bit like a block allocation, where the council has committed funds generally to this purpose, and what it's doing then is just delegating the decision through a matrix and through a proper consideration process to be able to do that where the need arises. And I think that's probably quite an important point, that I think this scheme of delegation would only be used where the need arises. I think in the majority of cases, the full asset management process would be followed. And then certainly I think for anything that was a major acquisition, this process wouldn't be there anyway. We would still have to go to cabinet. I think as well that certainly as an officer, I think I would put faith in the members who are who that is delegated to, and certainly Section 151 and monitoring officer, that any decision to buy land would be considered in every aspect possible. So I think the spirit of the report isn't that we just go out and buy land. I think it is actually that where we can, we ensure that we're buying the right land for the right reasons, and we can act quickly where we need to. I'm sorry, I've probably taken up far too much time there.
Okay, thanks for that anyway, David. That's a good explanation there. Lots of the points that have been raised are about speeding up the consultation process. I wonder if anyone could, perhaps Gary would help us. It would have to through a constitutional change, would it, or I'm not sure?
No, I don't think that necessarily. Sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
A lot of the points are about members being consulted, about MAGs being consulted and SIG being consulted. Is there a way of speeding up the process without sort of bypassing those? Is there a way of speeding up the process, having meetings, emergency meetings, like a licensing committee or something like that?
Well, the issue in respect of the questions about local members and MAGs is my understanding, if you look at Annex 4, is that the process does envisage that local members and MAGs will be consulted prior to any of these decisions being made. In terms of MAGs, my understanding is, again, from listening to the debate this morning and the answers given, that that would be done by email if necessary, and that this is clearly an exception rather than the rule in terms of most, from what Dave Lorry says, most things will go through the ordinary process. This is just to enable quick decisions to be made as and when required. Clearly, MAGs can be contacted by email. MAGs are not formal committees of the council. We don't have to publish agendas to the public, and we don't have to have the specific time requirement for notification of those meetings. So yes, those can be done quickly, and we don't need to change anything in the constitution around that.
Okay, thanks for that. So that's the end of the debate from the point of view of those that are raising the issue. We've got to decide whether we think that it justifies going back to the cabinet for a rediscussion. So that is the end of the debate, Mervyn. So would you like to make some comments now? Yeah, the other speakers are not from the group.
Yeah, just a couple of points then. On what David said, just maybe it's not for today, but if we're not planting on good agricultural land, would we not class Greengate as reasonable quality land? Maybe David Lowry could answer that one. I know it's our own land and we have an option to do what we want with it, but if we can plant there, they might consider planting everywhere else. One of the concerns I have, and maybe somebody could strengthen it, of the consultation that went out to the young farmers and the farmers' unions. I mean, because most of the farmers within the unions are actual working farmers, and the young farmers themselves as well, trying to consult with these during a COVID situation would have been difficult to get them together because they wouldn't be allowed to have meetings to put those responses back. So can somebody expand a little bit on where the consultation went with the young farmers clubs and the farmers unions, please? And again, in the Appendix 4, it says that the MAGs and the local member will be consulted, but it doesn't say that they will have a process to comment or whatever. Just informed. I think it just being informed, I think, is the MAGs and the local members. So maybe somebody could just come back on those for me, please.
Okay, thanks. In terms of the consultation, I think that Alan has already said that he didn't have as many as possible. Just confirm that quickly, Alan.
Yes, we did. We did try to talk to local farmers by email, and perhaps, as you say, Mervyn, there was an issue with their workload, etc. We didn't really get any responses. What we decided to do, we haven't yet done because our member of staff is currently off sick, is to try and set up a working group of young farmers to, like a focus group on this issue, so that we could engage with farmers in an ongoing way and not just as a one-off.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
The other point was about MAGs and local members being informed rather than consulted.
Can I respond to that too, Chair? I appreciate the difference between those two things, and the intention is to consult with MAGs. So if we've used the word informed, then I think that needs correcting. Our intention would always be to consult and ask people what they think, not just tell them.
Chair, if I could come back on that one.
Second,
and I'm sure I'm not the only one who would say that.
Please. Just going to ask Gary to comment on that as well before you come back.
Well, I would say that in terms of the MAG, it does specifically say in Appendix 4 that the MAG would be consulted.
Okay, thanks. Mervyn.
That's okay. I'll leave it for now.
Okay, so we're now going to go to the group then. This is the members of the committee. We've got Brian Blakely has had his hand up since about 10:05. Over to you, Brian.
Yes, thank you, Chair, or Deputy Chair. Graham, yeah, the question earlier on was from Alan. He mentioned 5 sites. Has he got his hand the 5 sites? My concern here is, as we've mentioned, it's been mentioned time and time again about consultation, about our councillors, ward members being consulted on this. I don't know how it would affect us on the around the coast of Brill and Prestatyn on land being brought up. We have candidate sites here, especially on the southeast ward, that have been put forward maybe for building, which I'm totally against. It would be better used maybe for planting trees and wildflower rather than putting forward for building properties. And those 2 candidate sites are both on farmers' land where we have grazing sheep and cows at this moment in time. Is it possible that David could give us the 5 sites they had where they are? Thank you, Chair.
So that would be an appropriate thing to do in a public meeting. So perhaps some internal communication is a good thing to have there. Okay, thanks.
If he could do that, Chair, I would be very happy. Thank you.
Thanks. Can't see any other members of the committee that want to say. Don't forget, our decision is: do we think that the call-in should go back to cabinet? So we're deciding, do we think that there should be more discussion on this issue in Cabinet? And if we do that, then we've got to give a list of things that we want them to reconsider. So members, okay, we're going to go to Merrick Lloyd Davis. Don't forget, we're not challenging the decision. We're deciding whether the decision is the right one to go back to Cabinet tonight. Merrick.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Jyst i ddweud, da chi'n ddistaw iawn. Dwi'n yn siŵr ydy'r meic agosach chi ar, ond dydy'r llais ddim dod drosodd yn uchel iawn. Jyst i roi syniad i chi. Fi sy'n codi y broblem yma yn gwahanol bwyllgorau, ac yr ateb ges i nad oedd o ddim i leihau y broblem sgynna ni ynglyn â carbon. Ond mae'n ymddangos a mwy bod ni eisiau prynu tir mwyn lleihau y gwaith fydd angen arna ni ynglyn ag adeiladau a loriau a moduron sydd yn cael eu rhedeg gyda ni. Dwi'n yn gwybod a dwi'n gywir yn hynny, ond mae'n ymddangos felly os ydym ni'n prynu tir i godi coed ac yn y blaen. Mae dyna'r rheswm, bod gyda ni ddim digon o dir yn perthyn i ni ar hyn o bryd i allu gwneud hynny. Ac wrth eswm mae hwn yn agor y drws i allu prynu tir i arbed gwaith arall o gydymffurfio, dydy. Mae swyddog Alan Smith wedi bod yn cysylltu â cynghorau lleol ac yn y blaen. Medda fo, tir ar les, pan bod brys ar dir sydd yn ar les, a ni pia fo, pan ddaw y les i ben. Dwi'n yn gweld bod ne frys y fanno. Prysuro y prynu, fel y dwedwi, lleihau yr amser y gymeru trwy alw Pwyllgor. Da chi wedi gyfeirio, parchus Gadeirydd, at pam nallwn ni newid y strwythur ychydig, y pwyllgorau brys. Da ni'n gallu gwneud hynny pan ma'n da ni isio, ac os ydy rhywbeth o bwys mawr i ni fel aelodau, dwi'n teimlo ddylech chi gael pwyllgor brys. A dyna ddylai'r cabinet fod yn ystyried yma ac nid gofyn am fwy o nerth a caniatâd. Codi 8.4 a tudalen 25. Ysgysodwch fi. Mae'n deud o fanno, cynllun dirprwyo arfaethedig ar y 7 Gorffennaf 21. A chymrydwyodd yr argymhelliad i gyflwyno'r cynllun, ond dim ond o ychydig. Felly, do'n e ddim rhyw gefnogaeth mawr iddo fo. Dyna mae'n ddeud ar tudalen 25 o'r adroddiad. Ac tudalen 30, mae ddrwg gynnau gymryd amser, ond mae yna waith edrych o bapurau. Y tudalen 30, sef tudalen 2 o'r adroddiad y defnydd tir, ac well-being assessment, dim ond bod chi'n alw o. Mae'n deud o fama, to deliver immediate benefit of reduced flood risk, recreation value, urban cooling, health and well-being, and over time increases benefits in carbon sequestration and air quality improvement. Diddorol iawn, ond da chi wedi bod yn siarad drwy'r amser ynglyn â tyfu coed ar y tir yma. Os da chi'n tyfu tir, rhaid chi roi llwybrau yn o'n bydd. Felly, da chi weld yn deud un peth, ond yn deud rhywbeth arall wrtha ni yma heddiw. Tudalen 48, jyst troi y tudalen. Maen nhw wedi ma ni. If land scores well at assessment, there are no immediate legal concerns discovered in the early negotiations with the seller, land agent. The current process for any land acquisition for carbon sequestration and ecological improvement purpose is as follows. Ward member notified. Ddim trafod, notified mae'n dweud o fanno. Dwi'n derbyn bod chi'n dweud bod y mag yn trafod, ond ddim yr aelod lleol. A ydych chi wedi dweud bod o'r rhy ar y deg?
Sorry, I think we've had it indicated that the notifying is probably in the spirit of consultation rather than just informing.
Ia, diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, ond dydy o'n deud hynny ar y gwaith papur, na chdi?
Yes, I can see. I think Alan Smith said that he thought that that was the intention of the word. That's correct, isn't it, Alan? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Wel, gawn ni neud yn siŵr bod yn cael ei gywiro. Diolch yn fawr.
I'm not sure. Well, we can't correct a cabinet paper, I don't think, but I think that point has been noted. And
Ellwch chi gywiro papur newydd da chi'n mynd I gynhyrchu?
Yeah, we're not producing a paper. That's in a cabinet paper that you've noted. We've had an indication that the spirit of it is to be consulted, not informed, and we can't do any more than that, I don't think, as a committee anyway. Over to Councillor Gwyneth Ellis.
Thank you, Graham. Apologise at the start. I'm using my iPad to log in, and I normally use my laptop, so I hope I get everything right. I've listened with interest to the debate as a committee member, and I feel that there is obviously strong feeling on behalf of members here that I think that the Cabinet should take account of. So I don't know if it's appropriate to propose that we do ask the Cabinet to relook at this, taking account of members' concerns, making sure that members are properly consulted, and also, I think, making sure that land acquisition for carbon sequestration is, the proper thing to do, that it's not sort of being used as a reason not to put work in other places.
Okay, thanks, Gwyneth. I'll take that as a proposal that we do agree that the call-in should go through to the Cabinet. Is there a seconder for that? Is there a seconder? Mervyn, I think you're allowed to...
Can I second that? Am I allowed to do that?
Sorry, Mervyn can second, can't he? He's a member of the committee. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thanks, Mervyn. Okay, so we've got a proposal. Hugh just wants to come in with a question, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. There was, I just want to make it clear, because I'm a little bit more comfortable than I was coming into the meeting. Now, I thought there was grade 1, 2, 3, and 4 land. Now, somebody quoted grade 1A, 2A, 3A. Can somebody explain to me how many grades are there? Are there grade 1A, B, C, D, E, or is it just grade 1? Because it does make a difference on how I will vote on this.
Okay, I mean, we don't want to go back too much to the arguments that we've already heard, but it's a question that you need to know. So let's go. Who can help? I think, was it free? Was it?
Chair,
Hugh.
I think, Hugh, I can probably take that. It's my understanding there are 5 agricultural classifications, 1, 2, and then 3 is split into A and B based on condition, and then there's 4 and 5, which are agriculturally poor. So that is my understanding. Any more of a definition, I'll have to get the books out. I can't do it at this present time. Thank you.
Hugh says thank you very much. Not at the minute. We've got Julian, Thompson, Helen, Dave, Laurie want to come in, but we're not going to go back to the debate again. What we're deciding now is, as a committee, do we agree with the call-in? We've had it proposed and seconded, and no other committee members want to make a comment, so we're ready to vote. But Julian's hand is up.
Yeah, do you want me to strengthen some of the call-in reasons, or do we do that later?
Yeah,
Chair,
you're correct, actually.
I think, to be fair, if members are going to vote on whether to call it in or not, they need to understand what the reasons are for the call in before they do that.
Yeah, okay. Julian, is it related to what we're doing at the moment?
Yeah, it was just a couple of members have made versions of the comments along the lines of we're only planning on carbon sequestration because we're failing in other to do other areas, or we're choosing not to do as much work in other areas. And I just didn't want to leave that to lie as an accepted fact, because that is most assuredly not the case. As I hopefully explained earlier, and Brian explained earlier, and Alan explained earlier, this, it's a multifaceted approach, one of which is a requirement to utilize land for carbon sequestration. We certainly won't achieve the target without some land acquisition for carbon sequestration, because we will always have carbon generating activities that we carry out no matter what we do, because we own buildings and buildings generate carbon.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to come to the final bit now, which is the summing up. So we're going to ask Mervyn to sum up on behalf of the call-in request.
Thank you, Chair, for giving this time today. One of the reasons I want to put on to strengthen it up, to bring it back to Cabinet for them to decide it, is to speed up the process of the decision making in the purchasing of the land. I'd like to see more consultation, or time for consultation with the farming unions and the young farmers on putting their response back to this. Now, following COVID, it should be a lot easier to get that response. We'll work with them. I think we want to strengthen the wording on the involvement with the local members from notification to consultation. I think that needs to be put right, whether it's just intentions are right or whatever. Let's get it right on paper. And the 5, firmer up the review on the countryside staffing and where that's going to go, maybe, because this will probably come into the next council now, so we might know a little bit more of where it is, but I might be wrong whether it comes to the next council or this one. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. It was the first one I missed. I've got the second one as speeding the process up, but the first one I missed. Sorry, you're on mute.
Camera off again. Speeding up the process of the decision making. First one. Consultation with the farming unions and young farmers following post-COVID, so they've got time to have the meeting. Strengthening the involvement and the wording with the local members and MAGs from notification to consultation, and firming the review of the countryside staffing so that we know that we've got more, that we know we can be confident that countryside staffing is getting the funding to do the work that will be expected of them.
Okay, thanks. That's 4 points, I think.
Yep.
5. Yeah. Okay. So that's they're the reasons that we want to send it back if we agree to do that. Yeah. Over to Hugh.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to add that, if I may, Chair, some clarity on the grading of the land.
Sorry, you're not right, Michael.
Right, somebody's muted me. Yeah, so some clarity, if it's okay, on the clarity of the land and maps to be available to Cabinet members to have a look to see, because it means nothing 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, and C to me. We just need clarity of that, if that's okay, because it's okay.
So that's as a fifth reason that more information is supplied to the decision makers on the grading of the land.
And mapping, please.
Okay, so we've got those 5 reasons now, and we're ready to vote on. First of all, we want to get it to go back to the Cabinet. So that's the first bit we'll do. Should we do that first of all? This was Gwyneth who proposed it, and Mervyn that seconded that motion. Shall we take that on first? So can we see all those in favour, please? Anybody against? Okay, so that's carried. So we agree that the call-in is successful and it goes back to a cabinet in the future, at the nearest opportunity, I think, in the future, as the wording. And the second one of the reasons, the 5 reasons, I don't know if we've heard them twice now, I think, with one extra one, which Hugh added, which was about information about mapping. Are we all clear about that? Do we want them read out again, or we're happy to go forward and vote? Happy? Yeah, okay.
Happy.
So they're the 5 reasons that we want the issue to be rediscussed. They're the points that we want to be addressed. So can someone propose that, please?
I'll propose it, Chair.
Okay, thanks,
I'll
Mervyn.
second it.
And Hugh to second. So can we have all those in favour? Okay, anybody against? Okay, thanks, that's also carried. So they're the 5 reasons that we want the cabinet to address in the call in. So, diolch yn fawr pawb. In a long session, I think it's important that we take these things seriously, though, and we do need to make sure that everyone has their voice and has their opinions noted. So that will be in a cabinet. Anyone, any idea on the timing of that? There is a cabinet next Tuesday, but I think it's too late for that.
It can't go to cabinet next Tuesday, Chair. So if there's a cabinet, in April, consideration would have to be given as to whether or not it would be able to do this in the pre-election period. If there isn't a cabinet in April, then it would be June anyway. There won't be another cabinet until June.
Okay, so it's likely to be June before it's decided on. Okay. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much, members. Thank you, officers. We've now earned a few minutes break. So it's 11:25 now. Shall we say 10 minutes? 10 minutes, okay. So we'll meet back at 11:25. Diolch yn fawr.
Members, we'll go on to number 6, which is the Flood Risk Management and Riparian Landowners Task and Finishing Group. That was chaired by myself, along with members from this committee. And I must say, it was probably one of the best achievements, which I felt I've had personally as a task and finishing group in my 10 years of being on Denbighshire County Council. I'd like to thank the NRW, Welsh Water, Waterco, Farmers Union Wales, NFU, and the Country Landowners Association. And a big thank you to Karen Evans, who's the author of this document. Done a great job. It was this task and finishing group was set up from this community scrutiny. We felt that nobody was sitting around the table and talking. Well, I can tell you it took a few meetings, but we got there. And I do feel a lot happier of where we are today. There's a lot in the report. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but you know, there's agreements come out, or this information come out on the rail cut and the Prestatyn gutter, which I'm sure members will have questions on, and I'm sure, you know, we have got officers which are present here today that will help and guide us through. We learned that Natural Resources Wales, which I for one used to blame them for everything, well, halfway through this task and finishing group, I actually had to support them and for their work. They get blamed for everything, but without due course. I can honestly say that after finishing the task and finishing group meetings, it will be going on, sorry, in the future, and I think it's important what we keep that loop going. Everybody now is sitting around the table and talking. Some of the farmers unions came over and said that their landowners couldn't get a license for doing work. We asked for evidence what they submitted. Well, they had submitted licenses to do work. there was no evidence put forward. Going on from what we found in our few months of doing this, we will be putting a link up on Denbighshire's website, pointing people to the right direction and letting them know how they can apply for licenses and work with National Resources Wales and Denbighshire County Council. So the document is there. I hope you've all read it, and yeah, we will be putting a press release out, as I said before, and there will be a link on Denbighshire's website pointing us in the right direction. So once again, I'd like to thank every single member who was on this task convention group. It's been a long stint, but a well worth stint. So I know that there's a few officers here as well who have contributed. Thank you very much. And I'll hand it over to questions if that's okay. Graham Timms, please.
Mr. Cadeirydd. Can I just say that on the report, thanks for the report, and it looks like a really detailed piece of work. And you mentioned that one of the problems was that it wasn't actually clear whose responsibility it was in terms of the public. And now that's been sorted out and people know that it's not NRW that's in charge of everything. And it's not the council that's in charge of everything. People are concerned about enforcement and making sure things happen. What is the process to make sure that things improve in Denbighshire rather than just knowing who's to blame? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Again, the link on the website will direct you into the right places, and it'll give you, it'll be able to download the forms for the necessary information you need, or the license you need. You know, we have got members of staff within Denbighshire here as well, so I hope that answers your question.
So if a member of the public wanted to complain about something that was wrong with a local water course, would they know who to turn to follow that complaint up?
Yeah, obviously we've got officers within Denbighshire as well, so yeah, happy. You know, you could take that into 306 and put the complaint in there, and they would put us in the right direction. We are in a better place now. Obviously, as I said, if you point them to the website, and there will be a link page there where that will guide people to the relevant places. Yeah.
The links on there will be, it'll link you either to Cymru Welsh Water or NRW, and the NRW, I must say, have got a really useful, like a frequently asked questions guide that will answer most of your questions, or tell you exactly who you need to get in touch with. Because I think the main point is, what we understood through this work is that they tended to blame NRW or the council or Dŵr Cymru for most things. Well, actually, the responsibilities for any waterways that go through a person's property now is that of the riparian landowner, and the riparian landowner could be a farmer who owns 1,000 acres, or it could be you or I who've got a 6-foot wall across the back of our garden with a waterway going behind it. So we're all riparian landowners to that effect.
Yeah, sorry, what I'm trying to get at is, a member of the public wants to make a complaint about a waterway that's getting blocked up. Who is going to enforce it? Not who's responsible for it, but who's going to make sure that it's enforced and matters improve?
I would suggest what we post it through to 360 in Denbishire's system, and it'll go to the relevant people then, and I'm sure it'll be handed over to any National Resources Wales. Not wanting to repeat myself, but this link on the website is going to put, and as Rhian said, there's a live chat there. You said, wasn't it, Rhian? You could speak to National Resources Wales with updates. Did you say that?
No, I'm not aware there's a live chat, but there's a frequently asked questions.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Document there, which, you know, if they want to know if they've got a complaint to do with, say, a blockage in the waterway behind their area, it should tell them then who they need to get in touch with regards to that.
Okay, Graham. Thank you. Yeah, Cheryl, thank you. You're on mute, sorry, Cheryl.
Typical. I wanted to ask something. It's happened before, and we did have the cooperation of the Welsh Water. It started before I was a councillor, probably over a period of 9 years, where all the community groups used to come together and clean out the cut right the way through. Can that carry on again? I know we've had COVID, so that would have changed things, but can that carry on again? Because it's always full of rubbish wherever you go. And I believe some people have lost land due to it as well, because it's crumbling along certain parts of the rail area of that as well. Is it possible we can set something up like that again? Because Countryside Services were undoubtedly really great with setting that up as well.
I don't really know the answer to that, Cheryl. I'm going to call on Gary Williams, you know, because sorry, it is the landowner's responsibility. So sorry, Gary, chucking you in there. No pressure.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry, I was momentarily distracted by something else. I just wondered if Councillor Williams could just repeat the question.
Cheryl, could you repeat that? Sorry.
Yes, in the past we've had like proper, like a large event to clean up the the cut, usually going right the way along, but I can remember doing it in Southwest here, just literally cleaning all the rubbish out, mowing it all down, because sometimes it obviously once the wildlife is safe, they have the seasons and stuff like that, it's completely mowed down and cleaned up, because people used to and still do fly tipping it all the way. So I wondered, Welsh Water worked with us wonderfully with that over the time, and I don't know if it's Resources Wales now, obviously, and Countryside Services set it up with them, and conjunction of local groups. I think I was Rural Environmental Association at the time. I was a member of them, so that's how I got in. So I wondered if we could keep arranging that now, given that COVID will have stopped some of it. I'd wonder if we could work with doing it again, cleaning it up, on a regular basis, please.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to stop people on a voluntary basis assisting with the maintenance of. Yes, provided they've got the appropriate guidance from NRW and landowners' permission, etc., to go on there, then that's fine.
Okay, Cheryl. So as we said before, there will be a link on the Denbighshire's website. So just follow procedures and send the email to Natural Resources Wales. I think that's the best route to go down. Thank you. Gwyneth Ellis, diolch.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Cwestiwn sydd gen i, o ddarllen ar adroddiad, dwi'n gweld fod na argymhelliad i yrru.
Sorry, Gwyneth. Sorry. Sorry, camera for a minute.
Nai. Drian i eto. O ddarllen ar adroddiad, mi o'n i'n gweld fod na argymhelliad i yrru gwybodaeth i berchnogion glannau afonydd Rhyl a Prestatyn. A eisiau gwybod o'n i tybed pam na fysa hynny'n gallu cael ei wneud ledled y sir. Diolch fawr.
Oce, diolch. O be dwi'n dall, bod yna problemau di bod yn reiddiol yn y ddau lle yma lawr ar y cost. Dwi'n meddwl bod mae a lot NFU, FEW, Country Land Association, maen nhw'n gyd efo magazines bod nhw'n hysbysebu. A da ni wedi gofyn i nhw roi y manylion yma, a bod pobl sy'n byr tir, bod nhw yn rhoi, bod nhw sy'n cyfeirio am yr afon a sut maen nhw'n gallu gael tryddiad i wneud y gwaith. So, da ni wedi gofyn nhw wneud hynny. Fel dyn ni wedi dweud, mae'r website o fama yn Sir Dinbych yn barod i mynd, beth da. So,
Sori, mae'n ddrwg gen i. Y peth o ddiddordeb i fi oedd y wybodaeth fod perchnogion gerddi hyd yn oed yn gyfrifol am glan yr afon.
Just i helpu allan.
Dwi'n siŵr fod lot o bobl eich ddim yn ymwybodol o hynny, a dwi'n meddwl eich sa fo'n ddefnyddiol.
chi'n iawn, o neb, o'n i ddim yn darllen ar un i dechrau'r task management grŵp yma. Mae'n beth mawr. Mae'n cwestiwn andros o dda, a gobeithio mae Rhian yn dweud ateb reit da hynny.
O ran hynny, dwi'n meddwl, fydd y wybodaeth ar hynny yn yr datganiad i'r WASG fydd yn mynd allan. O ran y ffaith hefo'r rhyl a prestatyn, mae'r broblem yn waith os liciwch chi yn yr ardal hynny oherwydd gymaint o dai sydd, mae yna gannoedd o dai sydd â'i cefnau nhw, ei gerddi cefn nhw ar be maen nhw'n alw'r ffos yna yn y ddau le. A wedyn, fan yma yna broblem benodol wedi bod, ond y bwriad ydy, ia, tynnu sylw bobl i'r ffaith na bod chwod. So os gynnwch chi afon neu nant yn mynd drwy gefn eich gardd chi, mae gynnwch chi gyfrifoldebau.
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, iawn. Hapus? Diolch, greit. Myrwyn Parry, swch na.
Diolch Hugh. Yeah, I'm pleased that this report's come out. I'd just like to make sure we don't lose it from this council to the next. I'm sure we won't because it was good work, but I'd just like to see that it goes forward and maybe comes to scrutiny again to see what's happened with the work that's been done, because we'll be in a new council going ahead and there are still questions to be asked, I'm sure, about, you know, like Gwyneth just asked now, good question about notifying the people with households in Rill, but there are lots of people in the rest of the county who've got rivers going through their gardens as well, so it's not just the landowners, there are residential people, and just to make sure that the work that's been done has followed through, and so questions can be asked again, as Graham Timms mentioned, third party, maybe the landowner themselves might know or might not know who's responsible, but a third party. So if an example, water could be coming out of a river, crossing over a landowner's field, then crossing over a Denbighshire County Council highway and running into my house. Where do I, as the householder, I can complain to Denbighshire, I can complain to the landowner, I can complain to NRW, but who's actually going to enforce it and help me to do something about that water coming across various owners' properties and responsibilities and then coming into my property? So it's just a case of being able to manage the questions and the enforcements when it's required. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Wayne Hope, would you like just to comment on that? So it's a fair question. Mervyn, just on your making sure it's not lost in transit over the next council, I'm sure we can put a recommendation in along that it comes back to scrutiny in 12 months' time. Yeah, Gary's coming in there.
Yeah, I was just looking at recommendation 3.1, which is suggesting that the working group continue to meet on an annual basis, and perhaps that can generate a report of what's going on.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Wayne, do you want to come in on Mervyn's question about flooding over somebody else's property and ending up in somebody else's property? I think that was the gist of the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the council has powers conveyed on it under the Land Drainage Act to intervene where there's an interest in the council as a land drainage authority to do so, but that isn't always the case. So there are situations where one thing I have to say is that riparian landowners have not just duties, but they have things that they could expect. So, for example, if somebody decides to block a watercourse and prevent a downstream landowner receiving water, then the downstream landowner has got a justified cause for complaint. But when it's the other way around, it quite often comes down to a matter of nuisance. So it's dealt with not necessarily through the Land Drainage Act, but through common law. So we've had a few cases like that where unfortunately we have to refer the complainants to their own solicitor to gain their own legal advice, and quite often more often than not, that does the trick. So it's like I said, although we have powers to enter land to carry out work, we have to be very, very careful how we use those. I don't know, Mervyn, does that answer your question? Or
Well, I suppose it does, but does it work? That's what I'm asking you. I mean, I could give you examples, but it's not, today is not the place to do that. But I can give examples where that doesn't work. Cannonis area is an example. You know, my causes down there, I won't name them, but it doesn't work. You know, we've got problems down there that go into other people's property that could be avoided if something else was done, but it doesn't happen. Where do we get that enforced? And I think Graham Timms was after the same answer, really, in a way. And that's possibly where we want to take it that little step further forward into the next council when we discuss it again, is to strengthen those up. We can say all that, but, you know, if it comes across the road, then there's DCC have got an involvement as well, but they don't get involved in it. You know, so
I think it's partly a matter of education. So the first thing we do if we receive a report of a problem is speak to the parties involved, just to advise them of what their duties are. And quite often that does the trick. But we would prefer, or I would prefer, landowners to work with each other without us having to intervene and use our legal powers. It's very rare actually where there's an impasse where the only option is the legal route. But I think that there's an opportunity here through the website. So there's already information on the council's website regarding land drainage matters, but there's a really good opportunity here to review that and improve on it. And we could possibly do some more work around awareness raising in the community, not just in the urban rural community, but in urban communities as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd just add to that people do also have private legal remedies in respect of nuisance or damage done to their land by something that arises out of somebody else's land. So there are other remedies as well.
Thank you, Gary. In part of the task and finishing group, it was frustrating in the first 3 meetings, I think, because it wasn't clear who was responsible for what. You know, everybody was blaming Natural Resources Wales, and there seemed to be a barrier up between the unions and Natural Resources Wales because they were scared of them. That barrier's come down. There's a good working relationship, and I do feel what we've achieved a lot to try and resolve problems. But as we've said, it's ongoing. So Brian Blakely, I think, from the group.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to say to Wayne, it doesn't work, Wayne. You know, you've met, I'm sure, Wayne, with people in Regent Road and County Drive and Hadley Crescent in Rail, where the back gardens have gone into the cut, completely gone. Trees have gone. Now the residents are saying down there, what happens if they took control of this and they rebuilt and blocked the cut off completely? Where do they stand on this? I'm sure, Wayne, that you've been there. If you've not been, our officers have been there in the past. It's been ongoing for a long, long time. When I first became a councillor in 2003, the houses at Hadley Crescent and County Drive, they literally lost their gardens into the cut then. At that time, we were very lucky that we got Natural Resource Wales to come along and do a one-off job, they said. They did, they put sleepers in, rebuilt the back to stop the problem happening. Unfortunately,
Brian,
that was 2003. Since then, it's all gone back in again.
Sorry,
Where do we stand on this, Wayne?
Brian, can I as
chair, it is important. These people are pulling their hair out, and we're not going anywhere at all. You say riparian.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. One thing that's come out of this task and finishing group is the responsibility of the landowner abutting these pieces of land. It's theirs. What we can do is point these residents in the right direction to liaise with Natural Resources Wales and Devonshire County Council to guide them on what they can do and what their responsibilities are. I know it's not what you want to hear, but that is it the law, Gary? But that's what it is.
That has already been done and it's not worked.
Well, I'm really confident that after today's meeting, with what we've got on the website, we've got a good relationship now working with everybody. Let's get them around the table and let's get them talking. And I'm sure you will lead that on that as well. So moving on, Mervyn, you've got your hand up, but I don't think you want to talk. So no, I'm going to, Améric Lloyd-Davies, ga I siarad efo chi, swch yna?
Diolch yn fawr eto, parchus gadeirydd. Wel, ga i ddiolch gynta am y wybodaeth wych o tudalen 67 ymlaen, ac i'r aelodau, y grŵp gwaith a gorffen, ac i'r swyddogion hefyd am roi'r papur at ei gilydd. Mae o'n ddadlennol iawn, os ga i ddeud. Ond os ga i bigo ar tudalen 68, da ni'n cychwyn yn y paragraff mawr, wel, yn y Saesneg mae, wrth reswm. Mi fydd yn y Gymraeg, dwi'n siŵr yn bydd. NRW explained their position on dredging, that it wasn't necessarily a solution. Ynde? Dyna ma'n dweud. Ond ddawn ni lawr wedyn i'r paragraff nesa, ynglyn â be mae bobl sy'n bia'r tir, a da ni wedi clywed bobl sy'n bia'r tir, sy'n bia'r pethau yma. Maintaining river beds and banks, meddwl o fanno. 1 munud mae'r adran afonydd yn dweud, o na, sy'n angen, da ni'n credu ddylech chi, ac eto mae'n dweud bod angen edrych ar eu holen nhw. So, ni dros y dudalen wedyn i 69, mae'n sôn am surface water sewerage flooding yn fanno. Dwi'n meddwl bod y sir yn cadw at hwn i gychwyn, a dwi'n meddwl bod chi wedi sôn am hynny yn y dechrau gyda rhai o'r aelodau. Mae dŵr ar y ffirma ers blynyddoedd, rhyw 5 mlynedd ar 20, dwi'n meddwl, a mae'n dal i redeg. Os yna ni edrych i lawr wedyn, mae'n deud yn Saesneg eto, there was a need for adjacent landowners to take ownership of their watercourses to increase the capacity of the overflow from ditches. Sut da chi'n gwneud hynny os da chi'n glanhau yr afonydd a'r afonydd bach sydd gynnach chi? Wedyn, da ni'n mynd lawr y tudalen eto.
Sori, mae'n lot o cwestiwn yn there, dwi'n dda iawn yn cofio bethau. Ga i just ateb rei yn nhw, a dwi'n ni ddod o Wayne Hope i fewn gobeithio i ateb rei hefyd.
Diolch yn fawr, sy'n gadeirydd.
Hefo, hain ni, pa mor ni gochwyn y task definition, o'n i mor frustrated na chi ynde, a nhw dweud bod nhw eisiau dredgio. Mae'n posib gael leisans i dredgio gan y National Resources Wales. So, mewn rei llefydd, mae'n posib gael leisans. O be dwi'n dall, sy'n neb di play am leisans yn y 2 blynedd dwytha yma. Dyna be dwi'n dall. Ond maintenance of river banks, ych chi'n sôn am, yeah? Y coed sy'n mynd dros, dyna be maen nhw'n sôn am hynny, ar ochrau'r afon. Yeah? So, di National Resources Wales, diom job nhw i llynau, maen nhw yn managio yr afonau. So, dyna o'ch cwestiwn cyntaf chi. Yeah? Wayne, would you come in and help Meirig on the second question?
Yeah, sorry, just remind me what the second question was, please.
Yeah, it was from the ditches that lead to the river.
In terms of maintaining them, well, from the council's perspective as a land drainage authority, we have powers under the Land Drainage Act, but not duties. So we use those powers where we think they could be used beneficially in terms of managing flood risk. The other alternative we have under the Land Drainage Act is to serve notice on landowners, but there has to be a very clear case there. So quite often it might seem that a ditch is blocked and the land isn't draining properly, but in certain areas, ditches are blocked on purpose. And it's all part of a big picture of drainage and irrigation, because that's the other side of this coin, that water is used to allow us to grow crops.
Wayne, am I right in saying, Wayne, that a ditch that runs along the side of the road, along a landowner's field, I'm going to example now, belongs to the landowner, not to Denbighshire County Council or to the NRW. It belongs to and it's their responsibility to clean that stream. That's my understanding.
In the vast majority of cases, that's correct, yes.
Dwi'n ein ateb cwestiwn chi?
Wel, ddim i'r raddau, achos does ddim byd yn cael ei wneud ynglyn â fo parchu'r gadeirydd. Ond be mae'n ddeud o fama ydy bod rhaid granhau, a be mae'r awdurdod afonydd yn ddeud, os gael galw nhw felly, wel, does ddim rhaid i ni lanhau. O bobl yn deitha i, mae Peter yn cofio pen oeddwn ni ar y Pwyllgor llifogydd yn Llanelwy am 2 flynedd neu 2. Ond y ffarmwr o fanno yn tynnu wallt allan. Oedd o'n methu cael caniatâd gyn yr afonydd. Oedden nhw'n deud y drefn bod o'n gwneud pethau peth. Da chi'n deithau rwan, mae hynny gyd wedi bod. Mae pethau'n mynd i wella. Wel, gawn ni weld. Os gael ei fynd ymlaen, Mr Cadeirydd...
I just ask you, sorry, dod yn fewn eto. Diolch wedi bod yn clir. Oedd o'n clir pan wnawn ni gochwyn y Task and Finishing Group ma.
Na, dwi'n derbyn hynny.
Oedd yn bia be. A dyn ni wedi cael lot o bobl wrth siarad yn gofyn, yn ddeud bod nhw wedi gofyn am trwyddiad i wneud y gwaith ma. Ond, ond ddim tystiolwaith yna bod nhw wedi gofyn am hein. So, dyn ni jyst yn delifro heddiw be sydd wedi bod o flaen ni. Mae'n anodd a dwi'n dallt, ond be dyn ni'n trio ddeud heddiw, dyn ni mwy clir. A dyn ni mwy clir o lle dyn ni'n mynd, a prif ffordd dyn ni'n mynd, a pwy sy'n cyfeddol am wneud y pethau yma. So dwi'n teimlo bod, dwi'n dallt lle ydych chi'n dod, ond dyma lle dyn ni'n mynd.
Iawn, Mr Cadeirydd, diolch yn fawr. Gai fynd ymlaen jyst yn sydyn. Mae'n linell o fama'n dweud yn Saesneg, problems with flooding tend to occur when the combined system becomes overloaded by high surface water flows. Dwi'n yn gwybod ydych chi a'ch pen ddaru preifateiddio gael ei roi ar y statyd a cael cwmnïau preifat yn cymryd drosodd. Fe addawyd adeg honno y buasa'r cwmnïon newydd yn rhoi pibell arall yn y strydoedd ac yn mhob man lle o'n garffosiaeth yn gweithio yn cymryd dŵr glaw a dŵr budur. Ond i hynny ddim wedi digwydd. Yn unig beth sydd wedi digwydd bod bob ystad newydd yn cael ei codi yn rhoi 2 bibell i mewn. Ond mae yna rhywbeth wedi digwydd i'r statyd oedd yn deud bod gennym ni hawl i gael pibell newydd. A mi fasa hynny'n ateb y broblem o'r lifo yn fysa. A llun arall, dyna pam ni'n gofyn ynglyn â sgynnau hawl i godio, yn Glan Llyn, sef yn y Mewigfair, mae'n amaethwr o fan yn barod i roi tir i gorlifiad yr afon, a mae'n cael trafferthion difrifol. Trio cael neb i dderbyn hynny. Mae pethau yn gwella'n ar y deg, ond mae wedi cymryd blynyddoedd iddi ar hwnnw. Dwi'n meddwl bod fi wedi rhoi rhan fwyaf, dwi'n meddwl. Efo perchnogaeth, tybed fasa Wen yn hoffi deitha ni, os gynnach chi afon, a chi bia'r afon i gyd, neu dim ond i'w chanol i. Os gynnach chi ffos, ydy o'n bwysig bod y gwrych yr ochr cywir i'r ffos. Mewn geiriau eraill, mae ochr chi i'r ffos mae'r gwrych, a chi bia'r ffos i drws nesaf, ac yn y blaen. Achos mae hynny, os dwi'n cofio'n iawn, yn hanfodol bwysig i bwy bia'r ffos. Diolch yn fawr.
Oce, diolch Meirig. Cwestiwn sydd wedi bod yn cael ei gofyn dros y 6 mis diwethaf yma, really, efo pwy sy'n bio be. O be dwi'n dall, dim bwys lle mae'r grych bod y tir na bio i canol y ffordd. Dyna be sydd dwi'n dall o yn mynd o blaen. So, mae'n anodd, allan wneud Wayne helpu ni bach mwy efo hwnna. Wayne, would you on about as well, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So as a general principle, unless there's something else on deeds or within a land registry, yes. If you own a field on one side of a river and your neighbour owns the field on the other side, then the ownership goes to the centre of the watercourse. But you might own the field on both sides of the river, or it might show in your deed. So I know of some examples that we've come across in the past where the deeds show that the ownership is to the far side of the river. But as a general principle, if there isn't anything in the title deeds, then the ownership is to the centre of the watercourse.
VM of force, what about the ditches? If it's between two farmers?
It would be, it's the watercourse by definition, Merrick, so it would be again to the centre of the ditch, unless there's something on the title deeds that shows otherwise.
Well, if I'll say it in English. And when I was doing my studies, I was told that if you form a ditch, you put the soil on your own land. You don't put it next door. So you own the ditch. And that's why hedges are on your side of the ditch and not on the next door.
I'm going to move on from there. It's getting a bit tricky. What's the word? Could you just explain? Merrick brought up about the pipes on new estates, I think it was. Could you explain that, why we're having two pipes instead of one bigger pipe? Was it? I think that was the question.
I think what Councillor Davis was alluding to was that the old way of doing things, so it goes back to Victorian times, is that surface water and foul water, so foul sewage, share the same pipe, and they all end up at the sewage treatment plant, and that causes problems nowadays with increased development, increased surface area, more roads, etc., where those combined systems are used to deal with both flows. But for new developments, the two are separate, and with the relatively new legislation, the sustainable drainage legislation, all new developments have to manage surface water so that it leaves the site at what we call attenuated rates, so much slower rates than would previously have been the case. But that doesn't address, development that took place 40 or 50 years ago that still places pressure on the systems.
Could I ask, Mr. Cadeirydd, Wayne, am I correct in saying when privatisation of drains, etc., was taken on board privately, that an assurance was given that they would be providing an extra pipe for the sewerage so that they could use the old sewerage system for surface water? A two-pipe system.
Merrick, I know that made common sense, of course, but it's not something I'm aware of in terms of a formal commitment at the time.
Well, I've got a good memory.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any more speakers? Any members want to raise anything?
Chair, can I just, I've listened to the debate. I'm a member of the Task and Finish group. I thought we'd done a good job at listening to what people are saying. Now, I think these issues that they're bringing up were not part of all of what we discussed. I think some localised and need to
Turn your camera off, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I was on the Task and Finish group, as I say, and a lot of what we heard, I think you probably heard that we didn't discuss all this, but I think these issues should be brought up perhaps locally within their own groups. I think that the purpose of today was to report to the scrutiny committees what we'd done at the Task and Finish group, and that's what we were doing. We have got websites to go to all the town, city and community councils, which will help people find out where they can report faults and things too, but the Denbighshire County Council fault line still works. I think we've developed a brilliant working relationship with Natural Resources Wales. They've been a big help for me in St Asaph, but that's just personally. We have a river that runs through, as you know, that's a problem, but they've looked after that and maintained that and done a good job. So I think on the whole, the group's done a good job, Chair, and I was very pleased with the actions we took. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter, for those kind words, and thank you for your input as well. We've achieved something in this council by getting people around the table talking, and it was very frosty in the first few meetings, let me tell you. So if there's no more speakers or questions, I'm going to bring Graham Timms in. But Graham, can we also add that, I know it's in the forward working programme, what we are going to meet with these partners, but when it comes to scrutiny, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. That's the only extra bit that I noted from the debate, actually, that and I would suggest that at the end of 3.1 it says, and that the group will report back to the Community Scrutiny Committee. I think that should cover that point to make sure it's linked into somewhere in the council. So the other recommendations are as on the agenda. Shall I read each one individually, Chair? I'll go through them quickly. 3.1, that the flood risk working group comprising of the flood risk management authorities and landowner representatives continue to meet on an annual basis for an updated position on issues and expectations, adding to that, and that the group will report back to the Community Scrutiny Committee. 3.2, that the local flood risk management strategy page be relaunched, including 3.21, links to related natural resources Wales and Dŵr Cymru Welsh Water web pages, and 3.22, explanation of the responsibilities of flood risk authorities, riparian landowners. 3.3, that working in partnership with Natural Resources Wales and Dŵr Cymru Welsh Water, a generic information leaflet can be created on the responsibilities of riparian landowners and distributed to properties adjacent to rill cut and Prestatyn gutter. 3.4, that the report presented to the Community Scrutiny Committee upon approval by the committee be translated, circulated to town, city and community councils for inclusion on their website. And the other one I perhaps would like to add, Chair, is 3.5, that the committee thanks the working group for its report, which has been very useful. I hope that they'll allow me to add that in as well. And my thanks personally for them for the work that's been done, and it does help clarify these matters.
Thank you, Graham. And do we have a proposer and a seconder, please?
I propose, Chair.
Scott?
Aurelio.
Irving Parry. Show of hands, please. Anybody against? Nobody against. That carries. Thank you very much. And just like to thank Karen as the author of the document and all the admin staff who have worked so hard in this task and finishing group. Great result. Thank you, everybody and everybody involved. Thank you. Swiftly moving on to agenda item number 7. And we have Councillor Mark Young. Mark, do you want to kick it off with your team as well?
Yeah. So thank you, Chair Jock-and-Vow. Yeah, so as lead member for planning and public protection, I welcome the production into the charter.
Let me turn your camera off, Mark. Sorry.
With many of our city, town,
Mark, do you want to turn your camera off, Mark? Mark?
Yeah, sorry, no
Sorry,
problem.
Again, yeah, sorry.
Okay, it's been bad today. Is that okay? Can you hear me better?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, sorry about that. Community councils across the county and aims to guide those involved in the planning compliance process. It is vitally important that the council continues to take a proportionate approach to regulation, aiming to balance the environmental protection with business support and growth. This charter provides helpful advice to those making complaints about potential breaches of planning control and to those who may have breached planning control themselves. The planning compliance process is a complex and often time-consuming one, and I hope that the charter guides those involved and manages expectations of the council's role therein. The report examines the effectiveness of our planning compliance charter, which was adopted by the council in September 2020. The purpose of the charter is to streamline the process of remedy alleged planning breaches by helping complainants, alleged contraveners and other interested parties in the council's planning compliance functions and how it operates. Myself, Emlyn Jones, the head of planning, and Adam Turner, the planning compliance officer, are with me today, and I'd like to thank them, and also obviously we're happy to take any questions the committee may have. Jock-and-Vow.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you for that. Emlyn, ti eisiau dod I fewn? O Mark Turner, ti eisiau dod I fewn?
Chair, sorry, I have had a message. It's Paul Mead here.
Sorry, Paul.
That's all right. No, I've had a message from Emlyn. Emlyn was due to be here today, but he's having connection difficulties. So I'm here as obviously manager of development management and planning compliance. But yeah, my colleague Adam Turner is the author of the reports here. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Sorry, Paul. I didn't see that swap, so apologies.
Sorry, Mark. Yeah,
good to see you.
Emlyn sends his apologies. Sorry. Thank you.
Adam, do you want to contribute now, or maybe take some questions after?
Yeah, I could make a brief contribution. Profound everybody. Thanks for asking us along. It's really important, obviously, that we scrutinise this charter because it was introduced for the first time in September 2020. It's been an interesting time since, as you can well imagine. And so, yeah, we're reporting back today to describe how well we think the charter's performing against its initial objectives, which have already been outlined. Most of the information you need will be in the report, in your agenda pack. But like I say, I'm happy to answer questions regarding the charter's effectiveness, which is one of the reasons for making the report. The other reason is that a decision is required on whether to amend the charter and or increase resources available for the planning compliance across the county. Now, in terms of the amendments, those are proposed. You'll find those in Appendix 1 to the report. They're highlighted in yellow. There are also some omissions that are proposed as well. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Members, any questions? Yes, Graham Timms. Thank you, Graham.
Mr. Cadeirydd. Just to say that personally, the planning compliance charter has helped me because when we're asked by people locally about items, we can say, well, don't expect very, very swift action because these things are all prioritised, and we can point them to the way that the county council prioritises them. So from a point of view of a document being there, rather than me just saying, oh, well, it will take ages before they get round, they can see where they are in the pecking order. And I think that's been helpful progress. The problem that caused the planning compliance is, of course, the length of time it takes for action to happen when things are not going well. And I'd just like to have a comment of whether the backlog is decreasing, because it does cause real problems, and other landowners tend to take precedent from things where action is not as swift as perhaps it should be. And it's about having swift action on these things. All right, let's have the compliance charter manages expectations, but maybe we need to raise our expectations and deal with things more quickly as a council.
Thank you, Graham. Question in there, or was it just a comment?
I'd just like to know how the backlog's doing, basically.
Okay, Adam, go for
it.
Yeah,
thank you, Councillor. So, as you might expect, we have had a backlog as a result of the first lockdown in particular, which wasn't helped by the fact that perhaps our resilience wasn't where it ought to have been in advance of that, which is one of the reasons the charter was suggested in the first place. We are, however, going in the right direction in terms of caseloads now. Caseload is still high, but it is decreasing. That is in part because of the charter, and in part because we now have a second compliance officer who's actually in attendance today. Hello, Simon. So Simon came on board in August last year, and obviously has gone through an induction and probationary period, and is very much up to speed now, which is good news. And so, to answer Councillor Tim's question, like I say, the backlog is still significant, I would say, but things are going in the right direction, and I see no reason why they shouldn't continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure we all welcome Simon on board as well. It's good to see a new face on the team as well. I'm going to bring Councillor Martin, Mark Young, because he's the lead member. Mark, did you want to come back?
Yeah, just very quickly. Yeah, and welcome, Simon. Welcome to the team. And the fact that we have got a new officer does mean we have listened. So obviously, you would hope, and they are performing and getting more work done now. There's 2 of them rather than 1. But some sites we deal with, and I'm sure Councillor Martin Holland is going to come in. Some sites are historic and take lots of resources. Some of the sites I've been working with officers on has been going on 5-10 years. So it's ongoing. Obviously, you have to target the bigger cases, but I think the balance is right. But obviously, more resources, better results, and we've got an extra officer. So I think it'll go the right way. Thank you, Chair. Jochen.
Thank you, Mark, for that. Any members within the committee would like to ask questions? Would you put your hand down, Mark? Sorry. Mervyn Parry, please.
Put my camera off, Chair. Yeah, it's good to have this report. I'm not too sure exactly where I would find it on the Denbighshire website. I'm sure it's there when it comes. It's just useful link to be able to pass on to somebody, because what we need to be careful is that people don't see this a weakness within our enforcement and go ahead and do what they want to do and then come back with a retrospective planning application because they don't think that we might be taking our enforcement serious enough. And I'm sure we do, and Adam does a great job. It's just that it's a big county and a lot of build-up of work to be done. So it's just really having that information handy to be able to share, making it easy to use for the public as well if they want to look at it. And I'm glad we've actually got some more enforcement help for Adam there now to catch up with the work that needed doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervyn. Any more speakers within the committee? No. I've got 2 from outside, the Medical Davis and Martin Holland. Could we stick to what's in front of us on the agenda? We don't want to start naming sites and going into sites and all that. Cynta di Medical Davis, diolch.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, eto, a faswn ni'n meddwl mynd yn blwyfol ar hwn. Diolch yn fawr I chi. Gai yn gyntaf diolch I Adam a'r adran am ddiweddaru'r ddogfen yma. Mae I weld yn glir bod fi angen I gwneud ac mae dipyn gwell I weld wan. Mae yna un lle bach faswn ni'n teimlo ddylech chi gryfhau wrach, a mae ar tudalen 90 I 91. Mae o'n ben tudalen 91, a mae'n deud fel hyn, these details may include the complainant's name and address, though we would only divulge these with the complainant's express consent. Mae eisiau gwneud hwnna'n berffaith glir ac yn gry, oherwydd dyna un o'r problemau pam da ni'n cael gwybod am dorri rheolau. Cyngorau cymuned yn arbennig, dyna sy'n codi, wel, dwi'n mam ddeud am hwn achos mi gai helynt os na I ddeud bod nhw wedi gwneud rhyw waith heb ganiatad. A dwi'n meddwl bod eisiau ni chi wneud hwnna'n yn glir, fyddwch chi byth yn rhoi'r enw ond I bai bod yna ganiatad wedi'w gyflwyno. Ond diolch am yr adroddiad, da chi wedi tynnu allan lot o goed marw allan o'r adroddiad ac dwi'n siŵr fydd o'n well darllennu I bawb wan. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Meirig. Adam, do you want to reply to that? Or...
Yeah, diolch, Cynghorydd. Thank you for your kind comments. Much appreciated. In terms of the circumstances in which we can divulge complaints details, those are set out in the relevant regulations, GDPR, for example. What that doesn't prevent us from doing, though, is informing city, town and community councils that we are investigating an alleged breach at all. So, if you as councillors ever wanted an update, or if you wanted to inquire about a particular incident or site, then we can certainly provide you details about whether an investigation is happening, but what we may not be able to do is provide you details about who has reported that. As it happens, there are discussions happening within the department about how we can better keep city, town and community councils as well as county councillors informed. I don't want to go into too much detail unless you want to, but there are some software changes hopefully coming our way in the medium term, which should allow us to do that process more efficiently, which is obviously important when resources are an issue. So yeah, thank you again for your comments, and they're noted. Thanks again.
Hapus Meirig?
Jyst i ofyn i Ada, fysa fo'n medru inserau llinell o dan yr adran yna, tudalen 91, bod ni yn cadw bob peth yn gyfrinachol. Ia, ddim jyst i gynghorau lleol, ond i fobl sydd yn gweld bod yna broblem lleol iddyn nhw. Drws nesaf wrach, ond dyn nhw'n eisiau i henw fynd ymlaen.
Diolch, Meirig. Na ni roi hwnna yn y recommendations yn y diwedd. Councillor Martin Holland, please.
I think you invited me there, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't quite hear you, so apologies.
Sorry.
Okay. Can I first and foremost just say, I welcome this charter last time round. I think it's an important document. I also would like to see it, certainly signposted or given to community councils as an aid for them, because I think it's important that they also understand some of these planning issues. I also, would like to welcome Simon as well to this meeting and to the team. Sadly, Adam and I have had to deal with quite a few issues in my ward, and I'm not going to go into those because some of them are in delicate stages. But I'm grateful to Adam for all the work that he's been doing, and I'm hoping now that we've strengthened the team that we'll see, a move in the right direction with some of the backlog. Just a couple of comments stroke questions. Number 1.2, item 1.2. I'm just a little concerned, if I can say this, about the statement there that it's not necessarily against the law to carry out a development without planning permission. In most cases, there's no legal obligation on developers to apply for planning permission or consent to undertake works. I'm just worried that that sort of statement might, by some, be interpreted that they don't need to go down the planning route. And I just wonder whether we need to look at that and perhaps reword it. I'm also concerned too that, in many cases, if people do things without planning permission, it will, as Adam has said in the document, it could come back to haunt them. Not necessarily because we will take enforcement action, which may be the case, but also, if they come to sell a property that hasn't got the proper planning permissions, often that will come out in a search. And I think we should be perhaps saying that in this document as well, so that we are really encouraging people to go down the route of checking with us to see whether they need planning permission in the first place. I had a case in my ward where a guy came to sell his house and he'd done some minor amendments, but it had come out the search and it totally delayed the sale of his property. And it could be that it won't necessarily be for the owner occupier, but if that property is passed on to family and friends, family at some other stage in their lives, then they could also have problems in, selling a property. And, if you're dealing with an estate or something of that nature, that could be a massive issue. Page 16, page 10, 211, there's certain categories that will be immune from enforcement if no action is taken for 4 or 10 years. I think it is the two categories of 4 years and one of 10 years. Just a little concerned with our backlog of things. How does that affect us as a county with our backlog? Have we got any that might actually come into that and therefore, fall through the gap because sadly we've been unable to deal with some of the minor ones, the minor issues. And then the other one, page 16, this is about the impacts, the list that you have of, which is a priority impact, which is so on and so on. You do mention, you've removed from the original list unauthorized dwellings in the open countryside, but you have put in, moderate ANOB impact. If it's an impact on the A and B, it's moderate. But my concern is that since COVID, what we're actually seeing, certainly in rural areas, is a lot more activity where people are buying land up. They're doing things on that land that perhaps they don't have any planning permission for, not only in open countryside, but also in woodland. And that is happening across the county, not just in my ward, but across the county. So I just, I'm a little concerned that we've removed unauthorized dwellings in the open countryside, but we've put a catch-all. And I just wonder, because of COVID and because there is a move to the countryside by many more people now, we need to be looking at perhaps tightening that rather than relaxing it. Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's me. Thank you very much for allowing me to ask my questions.
Your contribution. Councillor Young, you've got your hand up. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, just a quick one. Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to put Paul Mead on the spot because he's come to the meeting and just to check he's paying attention, which I'm sure he is. So I have a lot of people asking about whether they need permission, Councillor Holland, and I forward them to planning. So I'm hoping Paul says they get them requests frequently. I would say most developers understand checking is the safest way forward. And if you don't, you can end up on a very sticky wicket, but most do check. So I don't know if Paul in a second can come in. And on the open countryside and woodland, officers, we have meetings regularly with members who are concerned about this. So that work does happen. Officers meet, as Martin knows, late at night, over the weekend if needed, in emergencies. So that work does happen. Obviously, it's not great, but that work does happen. And, we do our best. And when members ask for meetings, we always have them meetings. So just that point on how many requests we get, Paul, please, Giacomo.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and thank you, Chair. Am I all right to answer that direct now, Chair? Is that okay?
Just hold, Martin Holland's got his hand up. Could you mind if you just ask a question? You might just answer it. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I understand that that's all going on, and I do refer, as Adam knows, quite a number of cases to officers, but this is a charter document. We're talking about a document here that we're actually putting out for the public to have a look at. And so, if we word these documents correctly, hopefully we'll resolve the problem of us getting all these issues cropping up in the future. And to me, the charter is all about that. It's about stopping this happening in the future. Thank you.
Martin. Sorry, Paul, do you want to carry on? Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. Yeah, obviously the development management, i.e. people applying for planning permission and the planning compliance function clearly have to dovetail. We're in a single team, so we're liaising and we're coordinating all the time. So we do get a hell of a lot of inquiries around, do I need planning permission and would I get planning permission, etc. So you're right, Councillor Young, if people are inquiring with you about a potential development, directing them to our pre-application service is how it works. And we do get a lot of those inquiries from residents and from agents who are representing them. Clearly, there are risks if people don't do that. I think it's already been alluded to today that if people crack on and do something without planning permission, eventually it will catch up with them, because trying to sell a property or sell a piece of land, those questions get asked in the search, and if they haven't had the requisite permission, then there'll be issues there. I think it all links in as well to Councillor Holland's point there around, the backlog and whether, if something is reaching its 10-year point in terms of land use, or its 4-year point in terms of something being built, are we on to that, and are we able to sort of catch them before they become immune from enforcement action? Well, yeah, the straight answer to that is yes, we will, but let's not forget, I suppose those guides, those periods of time are put in there because clearly if somebody's not complained over a built development within 4 years, it's probably not causing a great deal of harm to anyone. And likewise, the use of land that's causing too much harm. But I think also Councillor Holland is absolutely right in terms of some of the wording in the charter, and I think we should take that on board. That, you know, we don't necessarily want to be saying just by doing something without applying for planning permission might be okay. So we will. I think we'll obviously debate that as part of the community scrutiny committee. But I think it is a valid point, and I think we should probably look at that paragraph 1.2 that was mentioned there by Councillor Holland. Hope that answers the questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Adam, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I think those are some excellent points actually, Councillor Holland. So thank you for those contributions. Just to expand further on paragraph 1.2, that's obviously just reflecting what the law states, and I think this is an effect, I suppose, of the Charter having to look two ways at once, which is to inform complainants about how we deal with alleged breaches of planning control, and then also to inform contraveners of the what the outcomes might be, given that they have undertaken a breach. So I suppose this paragraph is probably aimed more at the former rather than the latter. You know, as officers, we sometimes will receive emails within 3 days of a complaint saying, why aren't these people in court already? And so it's quite important for that reason to manage people's expectations and explain that an offence is only caused once an enforcement notice has been issued and then not complied with. And that's just how the Town and Country Planning Act is written, unfortunately, and it is a long process. But I do think the point is valid, so I agree with Paul that we can certainly take those comments away and reflect on them. In relation to the immunity point, that is taken into consideration. In fact, table, let me just get my numbers right, apologies. Table 2 in the proposed charter now, it's a table that we've inserted, is just rationalising the priority categories. We've actually put in to priority 2, which is high priority, under C there within the table, that if a case is approaching immunity from enforcement owing to the passage of time, that it will be treated with high priority. So that's just making that clear to the readers of the charter that something which otherwise might be relatively minor will be bumped up if it's approaching those 4 or 10-year deadlines, just reflecting the way that we already work, really. In relation to unauthorised dwellings, again, I think that's a good point. The issue with that category being quite specific is that an unauthorised dwelling in one place may be more harmful and therefore require more urgent priority than unauthorised dwellings in another place. So to give you 2 examples briefly, you know, if we're dealing with an unauthorised dwelling which has an access immediately onto a trunk road, which is dangerous, and it's in the open countryside, let's say it's in the AONB as well, that's probably going to attract an enforcement notice in pretty quick time. But if we're dealing with an unauthorised dwelling on an existing rural enterprise, let's say, there is actually a chance that that would be acceptable in planning terms and therefore wouldn't necessarily attract the same priority. So I think that's why we've ended up using a more generalised approach, because again, it's about managing expectations about the things that we take into consideration when we are prioritising cases. Okay, I hope that deals with those questions, but I'm happy to take more. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Martin, New Holland. Martin, are you happy? I should say. Words wrong. Are you happy, Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. You know, as I say, because it's a document that's going out to the public, I think, you know, we need to just get it right. We need to set the tone right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Cynghorydd Marin, sorry, Meirig Davis. I must be getting sleepy.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, eto. Mae di codi o'r sgwrs da chi wedi cael wan efo Martin hefyd. Da chi'n rhoi amodau, mae'r adran gynllunio rhoi amodau ar geisiadau, ac os newch chi ddim gwneud dim ynglyn â fo, os ydy'r bobl sydd wedi cael yr amod a nista nôl a gadael i bethau redeg, Da ni wedi cael un yma efo ni lle be oedd defnydd yr adeilad a mae'r amser wedi rhedeg allan a maen nhw wedi medru cael y defnydd o'n nhw wedi newid iddo fo. Os gynna ni o fewn yr adran, be oedden ni'n alw'n yn dyddiau ni bringing up system, sef bod yr amod wedyn yn dod i fyny dydwch mewn 2 flynedd a bod ni'n edrych i mewn ydy yr amod hwnnw yn dal i fod o ran defnydd yr adeilad. Tŷ ffarm yn ochr tŷ sy'n cael ei breswylio a ddim yn amaethwr. Dyna un dedwch. Achos mae hwnna'n bwysig, neu ydych chi'n rhedeg allan o amser, yn arbennig os ydy'r amod wedi cael ei osod gan gyngor arall. A mae hynny wedi digwydd yn Sir Ddinbych, hefo amodau ar ei glyn dŵr osod. Yn ymyl chi, parchus gadeirydd, ar y bryn y fanna lle o'n le gwyliau, a mae'r tai wan yn dau, mae bobl yn byw yn nhw llawn amser. Mae o'n digwydd. Sgynna ni y system yna mewn bod lle mae'r amod yn codi fyny mewn rhyw 2 neu 2 blynedd cyn i'r amser ddod i ben, mwyn edrych ydyn nhw yn dal i gadw ato fo. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Meirig. Paul, do you want to come back on Meirig's?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Mary Lloyd-Davis for that point. Again, it's a very good one. I'm encouraged by a lot of these questions because it shows that the members are clearly understanding the issues and understanding the charter as well. So that's really, really good. The issue around planning conditions, there are obviously a lot of planning conditions, and there are obviously a lot of varied planning conditions, Meirik, as well. So you'll understand that in certain instances, we do put time periods within specific conditions where we'll say we want details submitted, within 2 months or 3 months. And then there's some other general conditions that the compliance thereof, can sort of last for 10 years or more in some instances. So yeah, in answer to your question, we do have a bring up system. We do have a system of checking conditions. Obviously, our planning officers, when they're dealing with planning applications, they will alert Adam and the team to certain planning conditions in terms of needing to check. So we are doing that, Meirik. I think there's a lot of problem cases that you're probably referring to that go back almost to previous authorities and conditions that were on there. They're a bit harder to check on, but yeah, the more modern ones are being checked. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And I think Meirik's put his thumb up there, has been happy. Yeah, diolch, Meirik. Llaw lawr, Meirik, diolch. Last but not least, and then we'll go to the summing up, is Emrys Wyn, diolch.
Ie, diolch yn fawr, dwi'n falch bod fi wedi'n nghodi yn yna, dwi wedi gorfod symud ar ystydu'r car bellach.
Oes e gweiddi bach, sorry Emrys.
Ie, dwi'n cymryd bod chi'n clywed i.
Then, just about.
Ie, just about, sorry, dwi'n y car a dwi'n gobeithio, di hwnna'n glir i chi?
Yndi, yndi.
Dyna fo. Un cwestiwn y gennau mewn gwirionedd, bydd o'n mwy na lai o'r un yma, Meirik newydd i ofyn ynghylch amodau. Gai ychwanegu sylw bosib i'r ateb. Mi fydda'n werthfawr i aelodau lleol, sy'n ni'n feddwl, i gael adroddiad yn ôl yn achlysurol o weithgaredd yr adran gorfodaeth ar yr gwaith maen nhw wedi wneud o ran gorfodaeth, achos da ni'n cael cwestiynau aml iawn gan bobl yn gofyn i ni beth sy'n digwydd ynghylch hyn a hyn sy'n cael ei reportio wella sawl blwyddyn yn ôl, achos mae'n hyd at 4 blynedd a 10 mlynedd yn bosib hefyd. Ond dwi'n awgrymu hynny yn garedig ydw i. Gai ofyn ynghylch datblygiadau a ganiateir. Mae yna enghreifftiau wedi codi yn Rhuthun yma'n ddiweddar lle mae yna bobl wedi codi uned ychwanegol i'w gardd er enghraifft lle mae wedi achosi i'r llwybr tramwyo yng nghefn rhes o dau teres gael i'w symud yn anfwriadol wrach, ond mae wedi wneud a mae wedi creu problemau. Mae'n anodd genna i wybod sut da ni'n delio efo'r hynny pan mae'n ganiatad wedi cael ei roi am y ddim angen...
Emrys, dwi stopio pawb arall yn gofyn cwestiwn am llefydd lleol.
Na fo,
Chi Mogredig yn cymryd hwnna allan hefo Adam.
Na fo, digon teg, dwi'n mynd, na i felly, na i ofyn y cwestiwn mewn lle arall. Ga i felly ofyn o ran, mae'n deud yn adroddiad, mae'r cam cyntaf yn aml iawn i ddatrys problemau fel hyn ydy i'r achnwr i fynd i gysylltu ar bynnag sy'n creu y broblemau sortio fo'n lleol. Rwan te, pan mae hynny'n digwydd, a diolch yn digwydd yn aml, dwi'n meddwl, mae'n wych os yw'n gallu gweithio. Ond, yn aml iawn, maen nhw'n data ni fel aelodau lleol i ddelio efo fo. A dydy hyn, os gen ni ddim angenrhydrwydd yr hyfforddiant i wneud yn siŵr bod ni ddim yn gwneud ac yn dweud y pethau anghywir wrth i ni geisio trafod ffordd ymlaen. Oes na hyfforddiant yn debygol o fod ar gael yn y tymor nesaf ar gyfer aelodau lleol i ddelio efo math yma o beth, ac hefyd ydy o'n ddoeth i ni mynd ati yn y cyfamser i drio datrys problem lle o bosib wneud mwy o ddrwg ac o ddeioni.
Diolch, Emrys. Mark, you got your hand up. Do you want to come in before I ask Paul or Adam to reply to Emrys's, excluding the local issue, please?
Yeah, I'm happy. Oh, apologies, Paul. I'm happy just to chime in about training. Yeah, I'm already planning some training for when the new cohort comes in after the election in May. So similar to last time, I would encourage all members to attend. I'll try and make it interesting. I appreciate it's quite a dry topic, but yeah, please do come along, and hopefully that will give members the confidence to be able to intervene in these situations. But I would say, you know, by all means use your own judgment, and if you're uncomfortable, then you know where I am. You're more than welcome to contact me, and we can intervene.
Thank you for that. Paul, do you want to add that?
No, I think that's right. I think it's clear that local councillors will often be the first sort of port of call for a complainant or neighbours that are at each other's throats, and it's quite difficult sometimes to act as mediator in those instances. I think it's sometimes about just fact finding, not committing yourself to anything, but clearly getting in touch with Adam or Simon or myself if there's any sort of technical questions around what needs planning permission and what doesn't. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mark, you got your hand up. So
yeah, just very quick one. So on the conditions, I've had to deal with Paul and Adam many times, and some of the conditions are months or years, so that work does happen. The communication one's a really good one, and all officers and myself, we understand that is needed, and that's been committed to, and Adam touched on it before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for bringing this document. I'm going to hand over to Graham. I think there's a little amendment, Graham, what Martin Holland would like to exclude some wording, if that's right.
But,
maybe Gary will help us on that.
I was going to suggest that there are 2 points that were brought up as far as I remember, and one was by Councillor Mary Lloyd Davis, which was about the confidentiality of people that complain. However, I think the outcome of the comments was that that's the legal position, and you're just quoting a legal position there, and that wouldn't need any alteration to the report. So I was going to leave that one off. Is that the case?
Yeah, that is the case, Councillor. Yeah, thank you.
Just going to Gary Williams in.
Yeah, are we talking about 1.2 now?
No.
No,
sorry.
Talking about page 90, where it talks about anonymously submitting a report, and that names are required, and they won't be passed on unless they have their.
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So there's no point changing anything there because it's just the legal position. The other point was that we had a commitment from Paul and Adam about paragraph 1.2. So I was just going to add that to the first one. Endorse the and the first one is, if I go through them, that members endorse the draft charter and entitled Planning Compliance in Denbighshire, Planning Compliance Charter Appendix 1, and just put in and take mind of the committee's comments on paragraph 1.2.
Martin, you happy with that? Yeah, he's nodding his head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Part 2. Support officers' intention to present the the final version of the charter for lead member approval, and part 3, confirm that they've read, understood and taken account of wellbeing impact assessment appendix 2 as part of their consideration.
Thank you.
So just that one little amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. Everybody's happy with that. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hall, sorry, Martin, sorry, Mervyn Parry, sorry. And can I have a seconder, please? I'll second it then. Yeah, I'll second it. Okay, everybody in favour? Anybody against? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, and thank you everybody for coming along, Adam and Paul and the team. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just before I go, I know Councillor Cheryl Williams had put something in the chat there about making sure that there's a link to the charter. So we'll make sure that we send you a link, Cheryl, to the charter. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. 8, scrutiny work programme. I'm sure I won't be long on this.
All depends how long you want me to be on it. Ie, dyma o'r rhaglen waith arferol chi, ond dwi'n deud arferol, dio ddim cweit yn arferol chwaith, achos hwn i'ch cyfarfod ola chi cyn yr etholiadau. Wrth gwrs, mae'r rhaglen waith y Pwyllgor yn cael ei chario ymlaen i'r cyngor newydd, a wedyn fydd o fyny'r Pwyllgor nhw wedyn benderfynu os di'n dal i'r edrych ymlaen hefo'r rhaglen fel mae neu eisiau newid i peidio, ond ddyle bod yna ddim byd mawr yn newid, dwi ddim yn meddwl. Wrth gwrs, mi wnawn ni ychwanegu'r adroddiad heddiw ar y llifogydd a glannau afonydd ato fo mewn 12 mis, lle mi eith hwnna i fewn. Mi sylwch chi, mi o'n adroddiad i fod i gael ei gyflwyno i'r Pwyllgor yma ynglyn â camdrin cwn a'r gwaith rheoleiddio ynglyn â bridio cwn a felly. Yn anffodus, mae'r staff sy'n gweithio yn yr adran yn dal ar y gwaith ymateb i Covid a'r gwaith track, trace and protect. Felly, maen nhw'n nôl yn ei swyddi diwedd Mehefin. Maen nhw wedi paratoi adroddiad byr yna, dwi wedi gylchredeg ato chi diwrnod o'r blaen. So jyst i roi chydig bach o dawelwch meddwl o'ch chi'n, dydy ddim yn broblem fawr yn Sir Ddinbych, ddim fatha mai yn lot o siroedd eraill. Ond maen nhw'n mynd i ddod adroddiad cynhwysfawr i'r Pwyllgor ym mis Hydref. Felly, dwi'n meddwl cynghorydd Arwel Roberts ar ei ofyn am hwnna hefyd, so mae o wedi cael copi o'r adroddiad hefyd fel bod yn ymwybodol o'r beth. Ddaru'r grŵp cadeiryddion ac is-gadeiryddion ar ei gyfarfod diwedd mis Ionawr, a wedyn mwyn gallu cael yr eitemau sgynnon ni ar yr agenda heddiw, mae nhw wedi newid rhai eitemau sydd wedi symud i blaen i mis Gorffennaf. So mae'r rheini i'w gweld ar atodiad 1. Yn atodiad 2, mae'r ffurflen gais, chybod, os da chi yn meddwl bod angen i'r cyngor newydd edrych ar unrhyw bwnc o ran craffu, plis llenwch honna i fewn a fedrai wastad i hanfon i'r grŵp cadeiryddion ac is-gadeiryddion ar gyfer ei ystyriaeth nhw. Atodiad 3, mae rhaglen waith y cabinet, ac yn atodiad 4, dyna'r diwedd ar eich argymhellion chi. Dwi ddim yn meddwl bod yna unrhyw beth arall yn fanne.
Iawn, oce, diolch Graham, diolch chi. Great, moving on. Sorry, Mervyn, sorry.
Sorry, just put the camera off. Can I just say thank you to RHYDD and whoever, because I've been pushing right the way through communities for the community impact assessment on on how the impact of Rhyl School. It has actually work. It's actually gone on there now. We've agreed on the questionnaire that's going to go out. I know it won't come back into us to look at it, but it will come into the next scrutiny. So thank you very much for that. We got that eventually, and I'm pleased with the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. And yeah, I can read. I can definitely say what you. Yeah, persistent. But thank you very much, and great result. Number 9 is feedback from committee representatives. Anybody, any feedback? No feedback. Everybody's quiet. So on that note, can I call the meeting to an end? And this is our last meeting. I would like to thank Graham Timms for 5 years of being a deputy and working really hard, and our amazing staff we've got in Denbighshire County Council here. It wouldn't go on without them. So thank you ever so much, and not least everybody who's contributed in the community scrutiny as well. Thank you ever so much. It's been a pleasure working with you, and good luck for the next season. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, best of luck to everybody.
Thank you. See you all.
See you on the other
Bye.
side.
Bye.
Bye.